Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
World of Outlaws Dirt Racing is available now. Download your copy today.
Welcome one, welcome all to SimSpeed TV. It's time once again for the V8SCOPS support series. On the roster tonight we have got the Grand Tour in the GT4s and the Flat Sixes running the Porsche 911 Cup GT3 cars. Event number 6 of supports here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. The new for 2023 scan of the track and updated to how it is in the real world currently. A really good layout here at Indianapolis, which should result in some really good racing. And to bring it to you all live across YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch is myself, Reese Gardner, with Jay Kennedy alongside me in the comms box and also handling production behind the scenes. Our usual SCOPS Supports co-commentator Dan Yeaman, unfortunately off tonight. He's gotten a little case of the COVID, so he is resting up. Get well soon, Dan. But either way, Jay, this is going to be a fun one. I've been looking forward to seeing racing on this layout of Indianapolis for quite some time.
Yeah, I've been lucky enough to broadcast a couple of races here so far since the new scan, and it's always provided some really good racing. I mean, the old layout, the original road course, the old Formula One layout, definitely was, as our friend Jake Sperry would say, the Vegemite of sim racing. It was very much a Vegemite track. You either absolutely loved it or hated it, but I found this layout is probably a little bit less polarizing for people. It seems to be a bit more enjoyable, a little bit more flow, and that final little segment really spices up the lap.
Yeah, it really does. You don't actually use any of the oval banking on this layout. The opening turns are pretty much the same that Formula One used when they visited this place for the United States Grand Prix, but they've cut out that little fiddly section at the start of the lap and replaced it with turns 5 and 6, a flat-out chicane with a big curb right in the middle of it, which should throw the drivers off. Nice heavy braking as well for turn 7, then a nice bit of S-bends through turns 8 and 9 up to 10, and then another heavy braking zone at turn 12 to finish off the lap. Should be some really good overtaking opportunities here, especially with that super long straight into turn 1.
Yeah, I think these cars that we're going to see first up, the GTs, will definitely provide that for this. The draft will be really, really strong. There are some noticeable differences if you haven't really seen much racing at this track on iRacing since the new layout. Obviously, turn 5 and 6 very, very different. It was configured this way when NASCAR decided, from memory, to go to road course racing here instead of oval racing. They made that little shortcut, and then obviously they took out the final corner, which was turn 1 of the oval. But also turn 7, 8, they've been sharpened up a little bit to encourage a bit more deeper braking and heavier braking, which is always better for overtaking.
Yeah, indeed. It's going to be a nice tight corner there at turn 7. You'll also note when we go to the live pictures that a lot of the flatter curbs around here have been widened at the apex, so there's going to be quite some room for the drivers to attack these turns. And there we are now. Beautiful, smooth track here at Indianapolis. It's quite a technical circuit, and I'm looking forward to seeing how the GT4s tackle it.
Polarizing, I think, is probably the best word to describe it in amongst the drivers, though, isn't it? There's lots of drivers that are loving it and others that aren't quite enjoying the challenge as much.
Yes, well, this is how the standings look, with Sean Linsell at the top of the Grand Tour standings. Qualifying is on at the moment. We just see Dylan Jordan going to the top there, with Robert Northway in second, 50 points behind Linsell. Stevens and Loxton, though, only separated by 2 points. There may very well be some changes there, especially considering I can't see Brett Loxton in the field tonight, and Dan Stevens is dealing with illness himself, so could be a little setback there.
Yeah, I don't know if Dan Stevens will make it back into race. He's feeling rather unwell and has decided to park the car for the remainder of practice and qualifying. So if he does make it out on the grid, he'll start from the rear of the field. Format for tonight, though, this is going to be really tough on some of the drivers. 3 back-to-back races of 20 minutes with a reverse grid for race 2, then progressive grid for race 3, and obviously race 1 will start where they qualified. But I think that's really going to mix up the field a little. 20 minutes aren't the longest of races, but if you have a bad start, it's going to be very, very tough to gain time back.
Yeah, not much time to make up time, you could say, especially considering that the field we've got is pretty small here in the GT4 category, and if you end up losing the slipstream, then you are up the creek without a very big paddle in the form of a draft. Here's Dylan Jordan in the McLaren 570S, currently P1 in the standings. 1 minute 30.058 is his fastest lap. He doesn't match at that time, but still pretty secure at the top of the standings. 4.5 tenths ahead of Ewan Baker. Aaron Gilbert, the reigning V8 champion and still the most successful driver in the series to date, currently 6th place now in his Aston Martin. And with Stevens dealing with illness and Loxton absent, that means Aaron Gilbert could stand to get into P3 in the championship coming out of this one.
Very big possibility for him to jump up a lot of places. This championship point structure rewards consistent results in finishing races. So if you have an absent round as opposed to just a bad round, it really sets back your championship fight. So don't be surprised to see big shuffling of the championship when we get the next race for the Grand Tour. But we've got hopefully 11 drivers to take to the track, and no doubt we've seen in previous races, doesn't matter how big the field is, these guys know how to put on a show.
Yeah, the GT4 races have always been a highlight of the supports this year since they were first introduced. Sean Linsell, championship leader in the Mercedes, currently making his way towards the end of the lap, demonstrating the very sharp corners towards the end of the lap, and as he's just demonstrated, very easy to run deep in these braking zones. Robert Northway just pulling over to let another of the Mercedes by of Matthew Pignata, who's currently in 5th. Pretty good performance there for Pignata. Seems that the Mercedes and the McLarens are the cars to have at this circuit.
Yeah, which, for those that watch our coverage of Ozpass on Thursday nights, will know that they're the 2 least used of the cars in that series in the GT4 class. So it probably surprises a few people that they're the quickest at this track. So great to see the McLaren out on track. We don't see too many of them in that series. One thing to note is that Linsell will be done from the session, I would think, and Lindsay Hobbs looks like he's also fallen afoul of the magical rule in V8SCOPS, which is the no escape rule.
Yeah, exactly. If you're new to Oceanic Sim Racing run events, they do have the no escape rule. You have to bring your car back to the pits under its own power after you finish a lap. You can't just pull over to the side of the track and press escape. Got to do it like they do in real life, otherwise you'll take no further part in the session. And depending on when you do it, if you do it in a race, you might incur a points penalty as well. Ewan Baker in the Aston Martin, best of the Aston Martins here. That Kiwi Sim Racing number 34 looking very good here as he practices a pit entry, brings a car in after he's finished that particular run of laps. Only 45 seconds left in qualifying, and because we're running the heat format, it's going to be a hard cut to the end of the session. So Aaron Gilbert looks like he'll be safe. He'll be able to finish this lap, but anyone behind him stands a chance of not being able to complete their last lap. How does Gilbert do on this one? 1 minute 31.26, and that's not going to be an improvement for him, though I did see an improvement there for I think Matthew Pluck. Robert Northway goes 130.54. Yep, third place. Good stuff there for Northway.
Last driver that might get to the line. I think Linton Wills is going to be about a second away from getting to the finish line and will fall just short of the line. 2, 1, 0. Didn't count. Very close. Wouldn't have improved anyway, but still would have been nice for him to actually get the lap in at the line. But qualifying's done. We'll go through our grid and get ready for race number 1.
That we will. So heading up our grid is going to be Dylan Jordan with Ewan Baker alongside him. A Kiwi Sim Racing 1-2 there of the McLaren and the Aston Martin. They're joined by Robert Northway and Matthew Pluck on row 2. It is KSR domination here in the Grand Tour. Matthew Pinata, first of our Mercedes, in 5th place, with Aaron Gilbert starting alongside him. Then we've got Sean Linsell and Linton Wills starting out of 7th and 8th, with Shane Best being the last driver to set a qualifying time. He will start 9th in his BMW. Henry King in race control, and then hopefully Daniel Stevens and Lindsay Hobbs take to the grid, because then we would have a field of 11 cars taking to the start here at Indianapolis. And interestingly, for people who are used to GT racing, it's a standing start in this series for these cars. So it's going to be challenging to get these things off the line.
I think the one thing, though, is that everyone who's raced in this series before knows that it is a standing start, so they would have practiced it before. So hopefully we don't see too many dramas with it, but usually they don't get away as bad as you would expect. So fingers crossed we see that again in this race. 11 cars for our races of 20 minutes each, 3 races of 20 minutes. It'll be very, very interesting to watch. And it can confirm Dan Stevens has made it on.
Hooray. Let's see how well he does. Get well soon, Dan. ×2, both Yeaman and Stevens, unfortunately suffering from illness tonight. The start will definitely be helped for the Aston Martin, because unlike quite a few other cars in the GT4 class, it actually uses the same gear ratios as the road car. So we'll see what Ewan Baker can do starting from 2nd. But the timer hits 0, and we get ready to go here for the next event of the Grand Tour. And we are away. That's a good start there up the front, but absolutely stalling on the grid is Matthew Pinata. And unfortunately, that means he's going to be mired in this pack as Best gets by him. That's a really good start from Best, and also a good start from Lindsay Hobbs, who didn't take part in practice or qualifying. This is his first laps in the car. He takes it easy into turn 1. The field making their way through very nicely. Dylan Jordan, though, getting a massive start there. He is well ahead of his KSR teammates.
Very, very good start from Jordan as Shane Best around. Unfortunate for him. He's usually one of the drivers that ends up with a bit of bad luck, so hopefully that's the end of his bad luck for tonight.
Yeah, unfortunately, it looks like he just lost the rear going into turn 4. That's a shame. But into the slower part of the lap here, it looks like I saw Sean Linsell there getting by Aaron Gilbert, and was a good position secured there for the championship leader in the ERT Mercedes. But the KSR cars still run 1, 2, 3, and 4 as we rapidly approach the end of lap 1.
Lindsay Hobbs losing a bit of ground there to Miata, who's back through, so after his horrible start, he's at least got back to where he started from.
And he's not that far behind the next pack either. Robert Northwaite looking very aggressive in second place. Dylan Jordan did get a good start down, but he hasn't quite streaked away from his teammates like some might have expected him to. And the slipstream will be in effect now as Linton Wills, it seems, has had a problem out of the final corner into the wall there for him. And will he be able to get that car going again is the big question.
The sort of position that he's sitting in that may have got a little bit of help. I don't know if that's the case. I haven't seen anything yet, so I can't confirm or deny that. But it's just a strange angle that he was sitting on there. So see if we can pick up a replay as to how he ended up where he did, because it's just a strange spot that you don't normally see someone sitting.
Yeah, he might have caught the grass on the exit of the final corner, and that might be what sent him around. But we'll have to wait and see for visual confirmation. Here we go then.
I can give it to you now.
Yes. All right. What happened to Linton Wills? Oh,
Grass on the inside.
Oh, on the inside.
Yeah.
You usually see that happen.
Yeah, it's totally unusual. Both where he spun and how he spun, just a thing. But good thing is, he did hit the wall, but he didn't hit the wall very hard, so he should be alright to continue on, and hopefully he can get back into that top 8 or so. But it's lead pack now. 5 cars separated by 2 and a bit seconds. This is really cool.
Yeah, good racing at the front of the field as the Aston Martin of Ewan Baker, having lost second place to Robert Northwaite a couple of laps ago, trying his best to stake a claim there for the Brits. And now we'll see how the slipstream goes. Of course, Ewan Baker is Scottish in origin, but the car he is driving is of a British make. So just covering my base there so I don't offend any Scots watching.
And he lives in New Zealand, just to top it off.
Yeah, he does indeed. Well, looks like he lost a little bit of ground to Northway still in the braking zone for turn 1. And oh, was that a little slide from Dylan Jordan? He's starting to push that McLaren pretty hard and might lose touch with the race lead soon. Really goes wide over the concrete on the exit of turn 6.
Ewan Baker probably the one that looks the smoothest in this 5-car group at the moment, but smooth around here, not necessarily the fastest in the early phases, but the tyres will probably start to go off over the 20-minute stretch of this race. So while they are designed for endurance racing, when you're running sprint races, you usually do bump up the pressures to increase your grip, which then obviously increases the wear. So he is being nice and smooth. He should come good in the last maybe 5 or 6 minutes. Especially too as the tyre temp as well as the track temp will increase.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes then. Very smooth and technical circuit, which definitely means that higher tyre pressures can be good. We'll be right on board once again with Northway, and the gap is staying roughly the same at about 6/10 across the line, but in the braking zones, Northway seems to be making up quite a bit of time. Especially in the last sector. You see how much ground he gains here on the way into turn 1.
Actually gained all of that time through the middle part of the lap. There's the comparison of that last lap. What's that? 2.5 tenths through this section of track from about here. Saying that, he's just run very, very wide as we start to talk about him gaining time through this section.
Yep, not a good place for that to happen. Turn 4, very difficult at this track, deceptively so. That means
that chicane still throws me every time. Sorry to cut you off there, Reese, because remember on the old layout of that track, the old configuration of this track, you couldn't run out onto that concrete bit there because that was a slowdown penalty. Now it's a bit more free-for-all. Everyone's using it, and it's throwing me, and it still throws me, and it's thrown me every time I've watched a race here.
Yeah, I was calling that into question myself, but oh well, if the drivers can use it, they definitely will. Any straighter of an exit you can get is certainly a benefit. Well, now Northway, Baker and Pluck all together, and Northway starting to lose it a bit. There's a move by Pluck up the inside of Baker. Is he able to get alongside on the exit? Not quite. Now Baker has the preferred line inside for the final corner, and that little bit of side-by-side has given Northway a tiny bit of breathing room.
Up Lindsay as well behind.
Yeah, definitely. Lincell's taking advantage of this, and let's see if he can gain a couple of spots if these two KSR cars come together. Pluck goes up the inside of Baker, gets the move done very nicely into turn 1, and it looks like he'll keep it for the time being. Lincell running a little bit wide for turn 2 in the background. That'll hurt him slightly.
We've seen it time and time again, haven't we, that these KSR cars, there's no team orders at all, is there? They race hard, race fair, race clean, but they always love to race and battle each other, which is great to see. It's what we want to see. They're always really competitive within each other. I think there's a real good friendly rivalry within this team.
Yeah, and that's what we like to see, you know. Intra-team battles are always an interesting part of any form of motorsport, and when there's a good relationship between the teammates, when they know that they can race each other and not have a tizzy about it, it's always good to see. So
usually do find some good respect between drivers in the same team. It's usually a bit awkward when there's no respect within a team.
Yeah, absolutely. Otherwise there is no team. But KSR at the moment still holding strong to that top 4. But Lincell on the outside looking in. Remember, he's got a championship lead to protect, and he's leading by, what did I say, 50 points. So he has a good margin to work with, but he'll have to start making some moves soon if he wants to preserve that margin.
Yeah, he definitely will need to try and push forward if he can, but then again, the guys that he's battling in the championship, they're all in the same group. It's probably not the end of the world, and remembering next race as well is reverse grid, so you can't get past now. It's probably about understanding where these guys are strong to then defend the position from them as they come back through the field next race. So there's probably the extra side of the strategy is also understanding how to defend as well as attack.
Yeah, defending can be quite easy at this circuit. Long straights allow you a lot of time to place your car on the protective line coming into a corner and break the slipstream. But things are getting a bit dicey here now. Northway has lost time once more. Seems he's struggling a little bit for consistency and keeping up mid-corner speed, which is really important at this circuit as well as traction. Lincell very aggressive on the brakes there on the back of Baker. And we see that Matthew Pluck is now trying to have a look at Northway, but the number 46 gets the better exit. Now Lincell solidly in the draft of Ewan Baker, and that looked like a little bit of a mistake there from Baker. Completely flat through the final corner usually in these cars. Lincell alongside now. Pluck still looking at Northway ahead. He's too far back to make the move. Lincell, on the other hand, is going to have a go at Ewan Baker. He has the inside for turn 1. Baker tries to hold it, but not able to keep the position. Inside line always preferred at turn 1, and Baker makes a slight error. Goes for a little trip across the grass. Northway in front, defensive against Pluck. The battle for second starting to heat up with Lincell on a charge.
And these guys are going to have to work their positions out very quickly, aren't they? Because they will be starting to get a little concerned from Lincell coming through. That last lap, he looked really good by the end of the lap. And here comes Pluck now thinking it's time for me to make a move. Contact between them.
Oh no, and Pluck goes around. Northway continues, but Lincell goes up the inside of him. Now it's side by side between the Mercedes and the McLaren. Lincell goes for a big slide and unfortunately loses all of that ground that he gained, and Ewan Baker almost got back past him. So there's a little bit of drama between the KSR teammates. Unfortunately, Matthew Pluck all the way down to 8th now.
Disastrous for him, isn't it? I mean, the move was probably on. He just couldn't quite pull the car up. It's a little bit of a heartbreak, and Pinata's got himself up into this battle now too.
Yeah, good job there from Pinata as we see once again another angle of the unfortunate contact there, and I think that's on Pluck, unfortunately. Went for the move, but wasn't quite alongside enough to really stake a claim to that corner. But yeah, have a look at Pinata. He is right on the back of Ewan Baker now and looking at a top 4, which is certainly a good job for him considering the start he had. And Yeah, well,
I don't think he was going to
that's,
make the apex unless he made the contact. So
No.
that usually is the sign of who's at fault, isn't it?
Yeah, usually is. It seemed like a little bit too deep there for Matthew Pluck, and unfortunately, it looks like Lindsay Hobbs has gone around as well. He's going to fall outside the top 8 as a result of that, I think. Well, outside the top 7 at least. Pluck makes his way back past. So that's at least one more position gained back for Matthew Pluck. Anyway, battle of the front engine cars here. Both of them with V8 engines. Ewan Baker had to check up quite a bit with the contact between Northway and Pluck, and then Linsell having to check up in response to that. So now it's once again a 4-way battle for second, but this time the KSR cars are split.
And there's less of them in the group now. There's only 2 instead of the 3 that we had before. So Pinata's been the driver on a charge over the last little bit. Closing up ground obviously was helped by that incident, but even still, now that he's in this group, he's really applying pressure very, very quickly. And you look, not that long ago, he was behind Aaron Gilbert, and he's now closing in as Ewan Baker sets the fastest lap of the race. He's really got to hurry on since he was under attack from Pinata.
Yeah, indeed. Despite that little error we saw from him earlier, he's gotten that consistency back and could be challenging Linsell here, trying to preserve a potential podium lockout for Scott KSR. Either way, Linsell, he's looking to be the spanner in the works here. I see him gaining and gaining just little by little on Robert Northway every time they get to the middle of a corner. See Northway, yeah, once again, running a little bit wide. I mean, Linsell does too, but you can tell that the ERT Mercedes has a better time of it.
Yeah, it's definitely looking like they're even missing that apex hasn't hurt Linsell's pace at all. So, I mean, it is a corner that does flow quite well, that you can, you know, run it a little wide at the apex and maintain momentum and speed, but definitely looking like Linsell's strong in all of the right places right now, and this battle for this podium positions, or these podium positions, definitely well and truly on.
Well, with just over 6 minutes remaining in the race, we could see a move here for second. Northway tight out of the final corner, and Linsell in the slipstream. It's defensive from the KSR McLaren. It looks like Northway will remain ahead into the braking zone, but Linsell has the racing line. That's where the rubber is. But he can't get it done. Has to back out. Yeah. Baker definitely looking to make himself an element in this. And has another look at the inside, or was that a defense versus Matthew Pinata, who is well and truly in this fight as well?
I think it was a bit of both, wasn't it? He was trying to defend and turn the defense into a little bit of a sneaky, not necessarily attack, but just letting Linsell know, hey, you got to be careful and watching your mirrors as well as watching ahead. Linsell thinks about a move. Pinata shows the nose. A little bit of mind games happening here as both of the KSR cars completely miss the apex, but it hasn't hurt their momentum this time.
Yeah, Linsell is... there we go. He's getting up the inside of Northway now. Yeah. But he doesn't quite have the space to get by on the way down to the final sequence of corners, and Baker's on his bumper now. If we look to our right, we'll see Baker trying to get up the inside, and he's going to get it done, maybe? No. Linsell holds the inside for the penultimate corner, but he has to give space to Baker on the exit. And that means that Ewan now has the inside for the final corner, and a great advantage. Yeah, Pinata's probably going to get both of them. Nearly makes contact there with Linsell. He's solidly in the draft of Baker, but he doesn't have space to move over to the left. There's nowhere for him to go.
Beautiful little cover off there from Baker to defend that spot, because he was very, very easily going to lose that spot. Pinata, the 2-for-1, as he come on through, and ends up with Pinata not even being able to get one spot. So beautiful from Baker, and then well done from Linsell to only lose one spot with that loss of momentum. That was brilliant driving from those guys, and just not quite right place, right time for Pinata, but it shows that he's got good enough pace to get through too.
This is thinking man's racing. I like this. Well, let's see how the defense here from Baker works. He doesn't have to defend all that much, but Linsell moving offline there as another look. Another tiny defense versus Matthew Pinata. All of this battling is allowing Robert Northway some breathing room once again. And considering the perceived consistency issues that Northway's been having, I think the fact that the guys behind him have gotten into each other so much has been very fortunate. He's still managed to hold on to that second place in spite of everything that's gone on so far.
Don't forget there's still a question mark over Pluck and whether there'll be any further ramifications coming from race control. So that incident we saw earlier, I'm sure race control are looking at, but haven't had any discussion or decision around any penalties. May just be decided that it's a self-penalising incident. Considering Northway didn't lose a spot, Pluck penalised himself by dropping back through the field. Comes Pinata looking, but I don't think there's going to be any move at this stage. Last lap by. Now, he's not quite there yet, but Aaron Gilbert was a little bit quicker than these guys last lap. Another lap like we just saw there, and Gilbert's going to be in the draft for the final lap of the race.
Yeah, and could that be yet another spanner in the works with the second of our Aston Martins trailing behind this pack? There's Gilbert. Yeah, you can see he's not that far behind. Well, now Baker versus Northway once more. Pinata continuing to move around in Sean Linsell's mirrors. On board here with the 445, and he has a great view of all the action that's happening ahead of him, though he would like to be stuck in the middle of it, I would say, as there's a move up the inside from Ewan Baker, gets past Robert Northway and into second. And Linsell could take advantage of this. He has a good run out of the corner, but Northway sees him coming and switches to the defensive line for this corner. Pinata trying to find a way through himself. Northway protects the position. There goes Pinata alongside Linsell. Sean on the headlight flash button. Has to give room to Pinata on the exit. And Matthew will finally be able to get a position in this fight.
No white flag in the air, so confirmed 2 laps to go in this race. So still a lot of racing left to go. Northway's really struggling out of that little S-bend in that midfield bit there after the tight left-hander, isn't he? He's had a couple of laps where he just can't seem to find the breaking point and find the line through there. Now, that time, Ewan Baker was close enough to get through, but we saw a couple of times Linsell was able to get side by side, not able to capitalise on it. So don't be surprised if Northway loses another spot here. Remember what we said at the start of the race. Baker looked like he was better on his tyres in this group. We're now at that point now where the better tyres are going to start to pay off, and Northway might be struggling with a bit of overheated rears, or overheated fronts as well.
Oh, that almost looked like an aggressive dive from Linsell, but again, he's just trying to unsettle the cars in front of him, make them question whether or not he's going to make a move. And every instant that you're considering that in your head, there's a chance that you'll miss your braking point or your turn-in point, mess up the corner and allow you to go past. Racing isn't just about making moves on track, it's about making moves with the neurons in other drivers' heads. Meanwhile, here in the final sector, those three cars, still close together. Race control. No further action for the incident between Northway and Pluck as the white flag flies. I think that's a fair decision from race control.
I agree. I think that's probably the easiest call to decide in the end, because the driver that caused the incident was the one that ended up being penalised from it. So there's no need to take any extra action. Linsell looks like he wants to get back through here, but he just can't quite finalise the move.
Yeah, looks like Pinata's putting his car in all the right places here, but now you can see just how much Northway is struggling. Look at how much Baker has managed to jet away from him in second, and these two Mercedes will be looking to find a way past this McLaren sooner rather than later. Straighter exit from the chicane for Matthew Pinata. He's got the slipstream. Northway, though, keeping the racing line there. He switches to the middle. Pinata has to go for the racing line. That is an aggressive move around the outside, but he can't get it done. McLaren is still there on the inside. And nothing Linsell can do in the midst of all of this. He's just waiting for these two to come together. Or is he? He shoves his way up the inside of Matthew Pinata.
And I reckon that's come from Northway's poor run. Pinata was sort of balked, and Linsell's seen the opportunity there and taken big advantage of it. One complex of corners to go.
Oh,
Pinata's going to hold on.
amazing stuff there from Matthew Pinata as we have our winner about to cross the line here. Dylan Jordan, lights to flag victory there. Fantastic job from the KSR number 21. Ewan Baker's going to come across the line in second place, and Northway, wow, that's got to be the most hard-fought third place he's ever worked for. And Pinata ending up gaining a spot in the end despite not getting a good start. It's battle of the BMWs, meanwhile, for 8th spot. We got Shane Best and Daniel Stevens trading places here, and it looks like Stevens might just be able to hold Best off here, but the number 122 has a good run into the corner. He can't quite take advantage of it. Stevens on the inside, and to the line, Daniel Stevens will finish in 8th place.
But little doubt that he will be drenched in sweat from that one too, because he has been struggling, being unwell this week, so he didn't do a lot of practice. Speaking of also, before we run through the results, I can confirm the reason why Lindsay Hobbs didn't do any qualifying was because he wasn't sure where the track went and didn't want to go out there and ruin his lap. So he hadn't done any practice, so his practice was in the race there. So that's why he's finished down the order. He'll start higher in the next one. I'll let you do the results, though.
All right, well, Jordan by 8.7 seconds. That's quite the margin there, with Baker and Northway completing the podium. Pinata 4th, Linsell 5th, Gilbert, Pluck, Stevens, Best, and Hobbs all taking to the finish there. And, well, Linton Wills, unfortunately, 50.9 seconds behind after the unfortunate incident out of the final corner, I think at the end of lap 1. But either way, it is time for the race 2 start. And of course, it is a complete reverse grid for this one. So that means that well, the first grid spot's going to be left free because the race control car is registered in the session. So effective pole is Linton Wills. Lindsay Hobbs is going to start alongside him. And then it's Best, Stevens, and Pluck, your top 5. This will be an interesting one as the time hits 0. And, well, there's a couple of grid spots free. Unfortunately, Linton Wills not getting a good start at all. Instantly loses the lead off the start. And Lindsay Hobbs, well, he's not going to have this lead for long because here comes Matthew Pluck and Aaron Gilbert trying to make it 3 wide for the race lead into turn 1. Gilbert gets up the inside of the McLaren with a little bit of contact there, and Hobbs has to take a little bit of avoiding action. Sean Linsell finds his way alongside and gets the inside line through turn 3. Well, it's a KSR car leading and it's a McLaren, but a different driver this time.
Yeah, this is a bit of redemption, isn't it, for Matthew Pluck after race 1? Dan Stevens and Shane Best have started the race from pit lane, so they're going to continue their battle as they were. I'm sure that that is purely for Stevens anyway. That's just him getting out of the way of other cars and not stressing about being in the road. He knows his pace is a little off, and he's just trying to finish every race to make sure he gets points tonight. But Pluck and Gilbert now, Aaron Gilbert for the first time tonight, well and truly in a battle pack. Remember, he only had that little battle with Pinata for a little while. Now he's well and truly in the fight.
Yep, second place, but could it be third very shortly? Because we've got Sean Linsell once again on a very hard charge, and the driver's being aggressive here on the opening laps. That's deep for Gilbert. Linsell cannot find a way past, though. Has to think about the switchback. And mid-corner exit. That's looking good there for Linsell. Unfortunately, he'll have Lindsay Hobbs to contend with, who has a big slide through the final corner. All right, draft time. Let's see who gets it done into the first corner. Matthew Pluck is way ahead. He led by 1.5 seconds at the line. Here comes Linsell up the inside of Aaron Gilbert. He ends up getting it done beautifully. And then it's McLaren versus McLaren behind. Lindsay Hobbs trying to keep Robert Northway and Dylan Jordan, race 1 winner, behind.
I'm surprised that Dylan Jordan hasn't been able to make inroads yet, as Hobbs and Northway side by side, and Baker and Jordan side by side, and Pinata actually, sorry. Oh, I thought he was going to get through there. That's how you going from you and Baker. He's like not giving up that spot. That was close, but very, very good to see. Here comes, is that Jordan looking up the inside now of Lindsay Hobbs, and he might get it done. Nice little bit of driving.
Yeah, very nice indeed. But Hobbs, oh, he still had a tiny bit of overlap, but has to yield it. Remember, he's doing this night with no practice at all. And it's showing here as Ewan Baker is now trying to get past him. Grass cutting time for the McLaren of Lindsay Hobbs, and ultimately loses 2 more places there to Baker and Pinata.
Good way to learn the track, following a couple of the fastest drivers in the field. So probably not the worst job there for Lindsay Hobbs to drop him behind, and then once he's worked out what's going on out on track, he might be right in there for a challenge in the last race of the night coming up next. Northway's looking strong here on Aaron Gilbert. Gilbert just can't get the run out of the last corner. It looked really like looked like he was struggling coming into turn 1, and look again, just the draft's well and truly catching an Aston Martin out. I don't know if it's the Aston itself or whether it's just Gilbert can't get the run out of the last corner.
Yeah, well, the last corner is pretty much flat out in these cars, but it's a lot more difficult than it looks. It's tighter than it seems, and of course there's that grass on the exit that you want to try and avoid. So some drivers will just do a slight lift through the final corner just to make sure they have the rotation coming onto the final section of the lap. But Gilbert now is starting to drop. Matthew Pluck leading by 2.4 seconds or thereabouts, and Sean Linsell pretty safe in second as well. Here they come through turn 7, and there's the move. Dylan Jordan up the inside of Mr. Gilbert, and now it's Aston versus Aston. Can Gilbert hold off Baker? No, he cannot. Offline through those corners. This track with relatively new tarmac on it, it means that the grip difference between the rubbered inline and
where did Hobbs come from?
It's quite big. Yeah, Linton Wills. He's definitely... Oh, there goes Pinata up the inside of Gilbert. Yeah, Linton Wills, despite bogging down at the start, he has managed to find himself in this fight again. He could be making a move on Gilbert soon enough.
Yeah, and Lindsay Hobbs was the one I was surprised by, because we were on board with Pinata and he tucked in behind Gilbert, and then all of a sudden you saw Hobbs just scoot on through on the inside. He just came from nowhere, but nice little move. Here comes Pinata looking back at Hobbs, and I don't think he's going to be close enough to get it done. No backs out of it. So we've got 2 really good battles going on. Pluck's broken away 2.5 seconds, and we've got the battle of the guys that were fighting for the podium in the last race, Linsell, Northway and Jordan. And we've got Baker, Pinata, Hobbs and Gilbert all together, putting on a very good show right now.
That was a great move by Matthew Pinata, just lunged into the corner, and good space given by both he and Lindsay Hobbs. But now Aaron Gilbert will try and find his way past. Gently does it on the way in, but Gilbert nice and aggressive on the brakes and secures that inside line like a stone wall. Fantastic stuff. Well, it looks like the top 3, or at least the top 2, are very spread out here. Number 51 has actually, no, he hasn't extended his lead. He's lost a 10th. It looks to me like Linsell is starting to make some inroads here, but will there be enough time for him to make a challenge for the lead?
I'm sure there's still enough time. It's just whether he's got the tyre life left in the car once he gets to Matthew Pluck at the front of the field. If he's still got tyre left, he'll be well and truly on for a potential win, but Pluck might also be conserving a bit of tyre, and there's confirmation of what you just said, losing ground. Linsell sets the fastest lap of the race, instantly stolen away by Dylan Jordan.
Yeah, Jordan is looking mighty quick, isn't he? And he would have been assisted by Robert Northway, who you see is right in front of him. Now, Jordan finished a solid 4th place there in race 1. He could be looking at a podium here. No, sorry, my apologies. Jordan won race 1. I was looking at the wrong numbers on my timing sheet. We're both having problems tonight, Jay.
It's a Friday night, and it's been a long week already for us. We've had all sorts of dramas all week, between me having no power and Dan being crook and me having sleep deprivation and all of us having a life. It's been a strange old week, but we've got through it, and I think the fact that we've got some good racing going on has made the night a bit easier.
It has. I think the action's been really good in this GT4 category so far. Aaron Gilbert versus Lindsay Hobbs looks like the battle to watch on the track at the moment. Hobbs just steadily getting comfortable with the track and the car, and his pace has steadily improved since that race 1 start. But for the time being, Gilbert is safe in this position. Meanwhile, Dylan Jordan looking at Robert Northway to get back on the podium here to back up his race 1 win. But he's not close enough to Northway to get a move done. And again, we can see just how aggressive Northway is on the brakes here. He is firing that McLaren into every single corner, trying to focus on entry here. But that's what I think hurt him a bit in race 1. You know, he was focusing on the entries, yes, but everyone else around him was focusing on traction, getting good runs onto the straights, and that's where they were able to try and take advantage at least.
I think a few drivers would have learnt a fair bit from that first race, and the other thing we haven't really talked about is how much warmer the track is going to get as the racing progresses. The first race was right at sunrise. By now 8:30 in the morning, the track is getting warmer as the day progresses. By the time we get into the feature race next, the final race, it'll be being fairly warm. So I think fire preservation coming into that last race is going to be even more crucial, and the guys that can do it well might find themselves at the pointy end of the field.
Rightio then, Battle of the McLarens. Here we go. Dylan Jordan trying around the outside of Northway into the final corner, but decides to go for the switchback instead. Straighter line through the turn means he'll probably have better momentum coming onto the start-finish straight. Can't forget about Ewan Baker, though, either, as Jordan potentially pulls out here. We might see a little whisper of Baker. Yes, we will. There he is. Will Jordan be able to outbrake Northway into turn 1? No. Again, Northway as late on the brakes as he dares, and you can see that he's having trouble not running wide on the exit of a few of these corners.
Oh, how's that slide from Northway coming into turn 3? But he
nailed
somehow
the apex.
He somehow nailed the apex and got a good exit. So doesn't matter if you're drifting around here as long as it actually pays off for you. I guess it was something that shouldn't have worked, but it did work well for him. But Jordan with the slipstream will get the move done, you would think here.
Yeah, it looks like Northway did the rare braking early move and almost let Jordan by there. But now Baker gets up the inside of Northway. Oh, easy does it. He'll have the inside line now through the next corner. That position should be secured there for the Aston Martin. And through he goes. Northway now back to 5th place in a single lap. Meanwhile,
this is on board Northway here. Watch it. He didn't even move the wheel. It was a perfect slide.
All right, let's have a look here. Whoa, yeah, that's perfect rotation.
How good is that?
There. Yeah, as a racing driver, that's what you want, isn't it?
Exactly the move you want. And I apologise for stealing your point there, but that was too good not to have another look at.
Yeah, for sure.
It's cost him 2 spots with the slide, but it looked good.
Yeah, certainly did. Well, now looks like Matthew Pinata is starting to come into effect here for the top 5. Will Northway be able to hold him off is the question. Still got 9 minutes of racing left, plus a lap or so if it comes to that. But Pinata has had a pretty good run throughout the course of this night so far. And I want to draw your attention to that timing tower, because have a look at the gap for the lead now. 1.4 seconds. Sean Linsell is steadily gaining on Matthew Pluck.
Last lap was a fairly significant difference between these two drivers. So there we go. There's a comparison. Last lap for Pluck, 131.0, 130.6. So 0.4 of a second on the previous lap, which was Linsell's fastest as well. So remember not that long ago he set the fastest lap of the race. Well, he's gone faster again, which obviously isn't as fast as that magical lap that we saw a little earlier from Dylan Jordan.
Yeah, Jordan's still looking very quick as well, but I think the margin is just too great for him to really have a go at Linsell unless there's a mistake. Across the line we come, and it's a 1 minute 30.8 from Linsell this time. Pluck actually responded very nicely on that one. He only went, yeah, only a hundredth or so slower. So I think the McLaren is starting to come back here.
Potentially starting to come back a little. Got to be careful of Jordan coming along as well. He gained a tenth of a second on that previous lap, so sure, that's not really going to make enough of an inroad at this stage. But if these two close up and start to fight with, say, 3 minutes to go, Dylan Jordan's right in this for potentially stealing the win.
Yeah, we've still got 7 minutes left in this race, and anything could happen in that time frame. The field's still very close, and that's awesome to see. Despite this small field, we've gotten some fantastic racing here in the Grand Tour, and of course, this series is open to just about anyone, so if you like what you see, make sure to seek out Oceanic Sim Racing and V8SCOPS and sign up. Matthew Pinata now looking on the back of Robert Northway, and he thought about a dive there into the third last corner, but not going to happen this time. He's going to be gearing up for a slipstream on the straight.
It's trying to nail the exit. And as you said before, this corner looks 100% simple on paper, but you've got to be so smooth on the wheel to not scrub the front tyres. You've also got to make sure that you don't lift to make sure you stay on the track, and it's a real balancing act to do either / both. Looks like Northway's been able to do it very, very nicely there, and Pinata not able to get through. He's also looked very, very strong in the early part of the lap too, so maybe able to do it as Northway's a little wide there, but seems to make that line work for him from that point. From here on in, Mercedes have looked a little stronger.
Yeah, it looks like the corner exits are where the Mercedes is strongest, and here comes the draft for Matthew Pinata. There goes Northway defensive for the following turn, but Pinata has the racing line and the rubber. Will he be able to get on the brakes nice and late? They're almost level at the turn-in point, but Pinata has to yield for the time being. He'll be hoping for another good run down the start-finish straight to get it done. Or, depending on Northway's exit from this corner, Pinata could have a run at turn 11.
Very possible. We'll see. Still 4 laps to go as well, Reece. So still got plenty of racing left in this one. So I don't think Pinata has to get too greedy about trying to throw the nose in there and get the move done. He's got time to do this, so he doesn't have to rush about it.
Yeah, crisscross and gets a wider entry for the final corner. I said turn 11 earlier when I meant turn 12. Counting my corners wrong. But that's a good exit for the Mercedes, and Northway knows he's coming. Defensive now for the number 46, and changing lines again down the straight. Looks like that's all well and good. That's legal to do, but Pinata says no. I'll have another go at you. Almost touching the bumper on the way into turn 1. Pinata is having a tough time getting by Robert Northway here.
Well, these guys are nose to tail at the front. Again, still matching lap times at the front, so there's been no real inroads from Linsell except for maybe 1/10 or so. Still around the 1.3, 1.4 second bracket, so not enough to have that fight right at the end. And Dylan Jordan also only getting tenths. He needs to get pretty much a second a lap now to get right into this battle. Pinata's doing a really good job of applying pressure though, isn't he?
Yeah, he has stayed more or less within a car length of Robert Northway throughout this whole section, and a little bit wide there for the 46. That allows the 445 to have a go at the inside line for turn 12. This is the move that Pinata was looking for. Will he be able to pull it off though, or will he go too deep? They're on the brakes nicely. Northway yields on the way into the corner. It looks like Pinata is through, but he has to nail the exit of this corner here to really stay ahead.
If you can, remembering that we've seen drivers, saw in the practice, we saw in qualifying and race 1, hitting the inside grass as well as the outside grass does really hurt you. But Northway coming back with the draft here, and here we go. He's going to get the move back done, is he?
Yeah, looks like it. He gets alongside, but oh, that's deep.
Oh.
They make contact. Pinata goes off the circuit.
But he's got away with it, I think. I think that's play on. I think that's okay.
That was very aggressive from Robert Northway, and it looks like he's burnt up his tyres doing it. He runs wide out of turn 4, and Pinata might be looking for a way back past here. That's a really good exit through 5 and 6, and it's bringing the Aston and McLaren of Gilbert and Hobbs back into this fight as well. This is fantastic. That's a huge dive from Matthew Pinata, and he gets into the side of Northway. Play on once again, but now that brings Gilbert right into the fray.
Gilbert's going to steal the spot from Pinata here, although he's going to have to give it back. So as soon as he stole it, he had to give it back straight away. This has turned into an absolutely epic little battle here.
Yeah, this is huge here. Lunges all over the place. These guys looking to gain every little bit possible. Pinata looks like he's lining himself up for another move here. Oh, that's an interesting line there, getting up the inside. That's unfortunately hurt his exit a little bit, coming onto the start-finish straight, so Northway should be safe for now, but it's turned into a three-way fight for that sixth position. Once again, no white flag. Looks like Pluck in the lead to the point where he was able to cross the line with a few seconds to spare. Now Hobbs gets by Gilbert, or at least tries to, on the way into turn 1. Gilbert is... oh no!
Just.
Yeah, Gilbert thought about fighting back there into turn 2, but there just wasn't the space. Pluck and Linsell, they were only separated by a second at the line, our two leaders, and looks like roughly the same at the moment. So one mistake from Pluck could get Linsell in contention for the race win there, as Hobbs and Gilbert continue to scrap over 7th spot. Northway still staying ahead of Pinata for the time being, but we'll see what Matthew has in terms of his tyres here.
Northway missed Apex by a mile.
Yeah, he ran a bit deep there. That gives Pinata a big chance as Hobbs and Gilbert side by side. But it looks like Gilbert's going to protect that. Good stuff between those two. Is there going to be a final dive from Matthew Pinata here on Robert Northway? Just up ahead of them. No, he's not able to get it done. And Northway's going to protect the inside of the penultimate corner. But Matthew Pluck is going to come across the line here and win race 2.
Oh,
but only by... No, yeah, sorry. My goodness. My apologies. This is turning into a bit of a confusing night for me. Brains all over the place. So Linsell could have a chance here at getting the win. He is now well within the margin he needs.
It's well and truly there, and I think the positive for him is he doesn't have to worry about behind him now either. I think Dylan Jordan's too far back to potentially make a move, so he doesn't have to stress about it. He can go all out attack. Northway and Pinata are now side by side pretty much as well, nose to tail, right there in amongst it. We've got battles going on everywhere, and just behind too, Gilbert and Hobbs are still in there as well.
Yeah, well, they're just costing each other time at the moment, Northway and Pinata. But Northway defensive. Gilbert, he moves to the racing line. They all move to the racing line. Pinata having one final go at Robert Northway into turn 7, but can't get it done. He's going to have to wait for the last sequence of corners to really throw a move and try and get back into the top 5. Linsell super aggressive on the brakes for the lead, and but he's not quite able to get past Matthew Pluck there. So now take 2. Oh dear, oh dear, oh no. Around goes Northway. Aggressive move from Pinata. Contact with Gilbert as well. Here comes Matthew Pluck to take the race win. But Linsell was pressuring him all the way to the end. And big controversy on the final lap for the top 5. Northway with some heavy damage. He's crabbing. Well, Pinata is going to cross the line in 5th. But will he keep that? Because have a look at how much damage that's done to Robert Northway.
Northway will be able to continue to the line and get this position as it is. But there could be a post-race penalty coming, you would think. I would say that there would be, because he definitely missed the breaking point, missed the apex, and as you said, heavy damage. Shane Best across the line in 10th, and 11th be to the car of Dan Stevens. Wow, we had an interesting finish. We'll get a replay soon. We'll go through the results and grab a replay of that.
Yeah, that we will. All right, so Matthew Pluck, the gap was only about 2 or 3 tenths of a second at the end of it. One more lap and Sean Linsell might have gotten him, with Dylan Jordan completing the podium. Baker finishes 4th, Pinata 5th, but for how long? Lindsay Hobbs, Aaron Gilbert, Linton Wills, Robert Northway and Shane Best round out your top 10, with Daniel Stevens again taking to the finish, 54 seconds behind in 11th place.
Quickly get this replay in before we get kicked into the next race section. But yeah, look, way too late on the brakes, and I don't know. Was he going to make the apex? That's where the damage to Northway's cars come from. That secondary hit there from that was Gilbert, who was probably trying to do the right thing and making sure he didn't get involved in the incident. And then all of a sudden, hang on, there's a car there.
Yeah, Gilbert is faultless in that one, I think. But that incident could be up for some debate there, with race control probably tearing what's left of their hair out over that one. Either way, checkered flag in warm-up, and we can get to the third and final race of the Grand Tour for tonight. It's been a cracking set of races here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. What will race 3 hold? Sean Linsell not quite able to get on the top step of the podium in these ones, but starting second behind Matthew Pluck, he might have half a chance in this one. Dylan Jordan and Ewan Baker will take up the second row here, and then 5th and 6th will be Matthew Pinata and Lindsay Hobbs. Aaron Gilbert starts 7th alongside Linton Wills, and then we got Robert Northway starting in 9th alongside Shane Best. Northway will be looking to make up ground. Best will be looking to finish, as well as Daniel Stevens there. It's been a very tough night for the number 3, of course, dealing with that illness, but he's been able to make it to the checkered flag, which is certainly something to applaud. Either way, we're getting ready now, Jay. This is going to be an absolutely fiery race.
100%. We've seen so much action tonight. We've still got 4 more races to go. Race 1 more in this class, and then we've got 3 races again in our final category of the night, that being the Flat 6 is coming up next. So this is going to be a very, very fun night. Stick with us all the way through. Pluck with a very, very good start. Linsell with a good start too. Pinata, though, absolutely horrible once more.
Yeah, just couldn't get the power down. I think the traction control kicked in for him as well. So he's going to lose a spot to, I think, Shane Best there. Oh, goodness. That's looking a bit hectic there in the midfield. Looks like Linsell losing second spot to Dylan Jordan now, as it's side by side between Gilbert and Hobbs. Those two have been keeping each other very good company tonight. But Hobbs gets the position in the end, and Northway now trying to fight his way through. Look who's behind him, the driver who made contact with him at the end of the previous race.
Great start to the race. Baker has a little look, and now Gilbert is going to be passed by recovering Northway. Pinata also getting involved too, so already big battles going on out there right now. Race control, I can confirm, have looked into that incident. Going to make an announcement post-race.
Okay, well, that's fair enough. They've got to wait for this racing to conclude, and we'll see how that works out for Pinata and Northway. But for the time being, Matthew Pluck still holds on to the race lead at the end of the first lap. But then Dylan Jordan looking to make it 2 from 3 tonight. It's been KSR McLarens that have taken the top spot in 2 of the 3 races so far, and at the moment it's looking like the same story for race 3. But will Sean Linsell be able to fight them at the end? He's going to have to deal here with Ewan Baker and now Lindsay Hobbs as well. Hobbs holding on to the last position in the top 5. It's been good improvement from him, as 2 BMWs and a Mercedes on the way into turn 1. Linton Wills versus Shane Best. Looks like Best getting up the inside there into the first corner. Good stuff and very good racing from those guys. But yeah, how about Hobbs?
Yeah, great start to the race from him, up into 5th already. So he's looking to make more positions. Can confirm that Pinata is likely to receive a penalty. They're just trying to work out exactly what the penalty would be, and I think whatever penalty comes, it will be fair, and sadly for him, it will probably be deserved, because I think the only one that can be blamed for that incident.
Yeah, a real shame to see, but can't say I really blame him for making a desperate lunge like that at the end of the race, especially considering the exchanges that he and Northway had before that point. Either way, on board here with Ewan Baker, just trying to hold off Hobbs, who's had a very good night, all things considered. Northway, meanwhile, trying to fight back there, just getting past Aaron Gilbert, defending the position, I think. And
actually just got the move done.
Oh yeah, he did, and Pinata's ahead of them now. Okay, there was a bit of an exchange there.
Yeah, up on replay for us, because that's what happened. It's just through that section. I think that's actually a slowdown penalty.
Yeah, looks like it. Yeah, Northway cut the corner. He had to pull over on the exit, and Pinata went flying by.
He's got that spot, lost that spot to Pinata. Here comes Gilbert. Gilbert gets through and throw up the inside. Spot goes back.
Yep, slowdown cleared by that point. Right then, 16 minutes and the fastest lap to Sean Linsell. And he's still right in touch with Dylan Jordan, isn't he? That ERT Mercedes has been the cat amongst the pigeons for the KSR boys. And, oh, Linsell, take it easy. He came oh so close to winning race 2, but that's going to be a little setback for Linsell there, having to let Ewan Baker go after a bit too much over rotation in the rear. And just to avoid getting into the back of the Aston Martin as well.
Luck's up for a big challenge right here too at the front. He's going to have to work very, very hard to hold on to this lead. You would think Jordan, we've seen, has had great pace all night long. Baker and Linsell coming quickly. Pluck obviously had a bit of bad luck in race 1 with that incident. Self-penalised himself with that spin.
Pluck!
Oh,
way too deep.
That ends that.
Straight on.
Well, I didn't know that wall was there.
Huh, I didn't
Sneaky.
either.
That's sneaky. I think he's done that before, judging by that move.
I was looking at Pluck at the time, and I thought, geez, Dylan Jordan's getting on the brakes early. No, he isn't. He actually got on the brakes at the exact right time. Well, Matthew Pluck now falling outside the top 5 as a result of that.
He's going to have to work hard to get back up there again, isn't he? He's going to have to do everything perfectly right. But he's been decent with his pace, and remember, just around him as well, Northway, well and truly back in this fight too. So the top 8 separated by 5 seconds. That's incredible. The biggest gap between 2 cars within the top 8 is a second, and the whole top 8 within 5. That's really, really cool.
Yeah, really awesome stuff. Hopefully it continues as Sean Linsell now looks at the back of Ewan Baker and tries to get second place back. Dylan Jordan, now that he's in the lead, you can see that he's already starting to streak away, and a 1:30.906 there for Jordan. 1:31.19. Looked at the laps a little bit too early. Looks to me actually that Baker and Linsell ran a couple of tenths faster than Jordan on that previous lap, but having seen Jordan's pace earlier, I'd say that him keeping the lead is something to bet on.
Yeah, I think that's probably how it's going to play out. Track temp hasn't gone up anywhere near as much as I was potentially thinking it may. Last lap's on screen there, and Pinata the fastest out of everyone, as you said. So it's going to be interesting. We can bring that up again later on in the race as well, so we can get a bit of a gauge on how the drivers are faring. But, I think Pinata might be the one to watch here. He's got nothing to lose and lots to gain in this one, especially if he's got a cloud of something over his head as well.
Yeah, absolutely. He's looking at the back of Hobbs here, and well, Lindsay Hobbs is now right on it. He's had enough practice time, and now he's actually racing. And this is turning out to be quite a nice battle between he and Pinata. The battle for 4th place. It will continue for some time, I think, at least down the start-finish straight, because look at the exit that Pinata is going to get here in the slipstream of the McLaren. And will he be able to get it done into the first corner, this super heavy braking zone? Well, he's not quite gaining much in the draft, and unfortunately not able to make up ground. Oh,
Pluck again.
Oh man, Pluck is having some trouble there with the braking zone for one.
Yep. Notice too that Northway and Gilbert have dropped off a little bit. Gilbert's really dropped off the back of this group now, so a little bit within this group of infighting, and sometimes the draft can hinder and as much as help. So Gilbert may just be struggling with that dirty air and not being able to keep onto the pack. Decided it's better to back off a tiny little bit than outbrake yourself and potentially cause a big incident, which almost happened at the on that final lap there with Gilbert outbraking himself and running off the track.
Yeah, for sure. All right. That looks like a good line for Matthew Pinata. And Lindsay Hobbs will have to be checking his mirrors every few seconds here, because Pinata seems his favourite overtaking spot is right here, but he doesn't go for it this time. I think it's still a bit too early in the race to really be thinking about big lunges like that. Hobbs just a little deep on the exit there, and that's going to result in a good exit for Matthew Pinata. And the slipstream is on here. But again, it just seems that McLaren, it gains a little bit more in a straight line, doesn't it? You'd expect Pinata to keep that momentum, but it just isn't happening. It's like the Mercedes is running into a brick wall there.
The draft seems to not be really helping Pinata at all, and you see that as soon as he pulls out, Pluck closes in a whole heap of ground. So I'm wondering if the gear ratio in that Mercedes just isn't quite right to be able to use that draft right at the end.
I'll tell you what, he's strong in this section of the track, isn't he? He's all over the back of Hobbs.
And he's looked good all night here, hasn't he? He's looked really strong all night in this Mercedes through this section.
Yeah, the twisties is where the Mercedes seems to shine, but the McLaren, it seems to be better on the straights. Unfortunately for Pinata, he has to run wide there to give Hobbs room, and that brings Matthew Pluck right into the fray here. He's got 2 KSR McLarens on the back of him, and Pinata has one heck of a fight on his hands here.
See Northway back into it again. They've got himself back into the fight very, very quickly. Will he be able to get himself up some positions, as Hobbs is going to have to do everything right to hold on to this P4. If he can hold on to P4, that would be drive for the day for me.
Yeah, I'd agree. You know, from 10th to 6th to 4th has been the story of Lindsay Hobbs' night. It's been a steady climb, and looks like he'll be able to maintain it, because here comes Pluck on the back of Pinata, and you see that the slipstream for the McLaren is beautiful. It draws alongside Pinata into the braking zone, but Matthew will try and brake as aggressively as possible. Looks like he's going to keep it here. Inside for turn 2. Beautifully defended there.
It's really, really cool to see the defense job from Pinata, making that work despite the advantage, the clear and evident advantage that the McLaren has over the Mercedes down the front straight. But now it's time for Pinata to put his foot down and potentially get some of that ground back.
There we go then. Braking for turn 7. This is one of Pinata's strongest sections here. You can see that he pulls away from Pluck slightly through these corners, and then this very difficult, actually, S-bend. It's hard to keep the front in check. Well, here it is.
See if we can pick up on the replay here, whether he just clicks it into 6th gear and it just doesn't go any further. Whether he's hitting the limiter in 5th and doesn't want to go any further, or what. As soon as he pulls out, limiter in 5th, no point changing to 6th, so he hasn't got anything left.
Yeah. Looks like the The long straights are not for the Mercedes, and despite the fact that Pinata's now right on the back of Hobbs again, he's actually
McLaren's
losing
in fifth,
ground.
about to go to sixth. Look, the gear ratio is what's hurting him.
Yeah, the McLaren just has a little bit more in a straight line, doesn't it? Right at the top of the torque band. I
think
shifting into sixth.
The straight was, say, another 300 metres longer and he'd be able to flick into sixth and probably would be able to do it. But I think the fact that he knows there's no point going to sixth gear, it's hurting him there. Or, yeah, I'm not sure. It just seems strange that there's such a difference in the top-end speed, considering they're the same class of car in GT4.
Yeah, well, I think the Mercedes might just have slightly worse drag, potentially, to make up for it being stronger in the corners. Either way, Pinata's still well in the fight here. And one mistake from Lindsay Hobbs, remember, who hasn't done any practice for tonight, so there's potential for that happening. He almost did it there on the exit. This could give Pinata the chance, but he still has Matthew Pluck behind him, and it seems that once the McLaren pulls out of the slipstream, it just keeps going.
Bit wide of the apex there for Hobbs.
Certainly does it.
I think Pluck's going to get in here. I got a feeling that Matthew Pluck is the one that's going to steal a 2-for-1 here potentially. The run he's got not quite able to take as much of an advantage as I was potentially expecting, but see if he can get at least one done. Pinata's doing a very, very good job of positioning his car to defend the spot, though, isn't he?
Yeah, he made the decision and he made it at the right time. But, oh, there we go. Pluck tries to force his way up the inside of two, but doesn't have the pace mid-corner to get it done. And Hobbs runs very wide of the turn 4 apex just up ahead. You can see that one of the reasons why Pinata's getting such a good exit is he's actually sacrificing the inside of turn 4 a little bit. You know, he's leaving it off the gas just a little bit earlier to get a good run onto the straight, straighten up the car a bit more. But he has to defend here from Matthew Pluck, who tries getting on the power and sticking it up the inside, but no, not going to work that time either.
Battle for second is right on now too. Look at that, how close that Linsell has got on the bottom of your screen there. Ewan Baker now starting to feel a bit of pressure from behind. Battle for 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th on the top. Still ongoing, but they've separated a fair bit from that group. Remember, not that long ago, only what, 8 minutes ago, they were all in one big pack.
Yeah, they've separated out a lot, haven't they? I think that says something, you know. I think Pinata definitely has the pace to get by Hobbs. It's just whenever they get to the straight, Hobbs is pulling away. And, oh man, it's probably going to get even worse here. Two battles here. There goes Linsell up the inside of Ewan Baker into second place. That spot gain there. And have a look at Matthew Pluck. Gets up the inside of Pinata, makes contact with Hobbs and then with Pinata behind. And here comes Northway. Gets into the side of Pinata, has to slide.
Oh, hey. Turn 1 was all happening then, wasn't it? So Linsell through on Baker. And already starting to pull potentially a little bit of a gap here. Not going to see a move yet. Here comes Hobbs. Have to lose a spot here to Matthew Pluck. And as I said before, it's probably taken a little bit longer than I thought. But Pluck through gets 2 spots in the end. Taking him a lap and a half. But he has got the 2 spots we were expecting him to potentially steal.
See if there's an over-under here from Pinata. Looks like he attempted it, but it just seems the Mercedes doesn't quite have the power down out of that corner that he wants. Will he be able to fire it up the inside of 12? He has a go of it. And Hobbs a little wide there in reaction, but not going to happen once again. Put the power down in the Mercedes. A little bit of a wiggle from the rear as he caught the grass slightly. Onto the start-finish straight. You can see that, again, the McLaren just starts pulling away. Ewan Baker, meanwhile, looking to try and get Sean Linsell back here. He's a little bit later on the brakes into turn 1, but not close enough to get the move.
One thing I've noticed that I'm really amazed and impressed by is the different lines that all of these guys can take through that final little we can't call it a chicane. It's not an S-bend, but that final complex of corners. So many different lines, but they all end up at the same speed by the time they've got their foot down on the throttle, coming up to where the pit wall is through the final corner. It's incredible, the differing lines that all seem to have very, very similar pace. It'll be cool to watch in the V8 on Sunday.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's one of the reasons why I love this layout of the circuit. Really is a lot of potential for different approaches and them all working out the same. But here comes Northway. Gets up the inside of Pinata. And there's nothing Matthew can do at the moment to keep that position. He has to let Northway through on the inside, but will he come back at him coming into turn 12? He was offline slightly, moving around in the mirrors, but yeah, nothing he can do for the time being. Oh, he gets on the brakes very late, though, almost gets into the back of the McLaren. Linsell, meanwhile, having to defend from Ewan Baker.
Still 2 laps to go.
Yeah, and, you know, it's been 2 second places and it's been a second place and a 5th so far for Sean Linsell. He wants to make it 2 second places. And I think second might be the best he can hope for, unless there's a mistake or a hardware or software issue for Dylan Jordan, because it seems the number 21 has just been the class of the field tonight. It's really been awesome to see. Northway still working on trying to find a way past Lindsay Hobbs. I mean, it's amazing, really, all of this battling behind Hobbs, and he's just been minding his own business, really. He's only lost 1 spot out of all of that.
Still net up positions from where he started the night and where he started the race. So, I mean, sure, he's lost a spot in the last 3 laps, but I don't think he'd be too upset with where he is right now in comparison to how his night started out.
And Northway's had a great turn of pace as well behind him, hasn't he? You can see the little purple square with a clock in the middle. Northway has the fastest lap at the moment. Will he be able to maintain that? Once again, aggressive on the brakes. And I feel like a move might be coming at turn 1 if he can nail the exit. Here comes the white flag then. Dylan Jordan in the lead by 1.3 seconds. Linsell and Baker still together. Linsell going defensive, middle of the road and moving right a little bit. He's going to leave the space open on the inside for Baker, who gets on the brakes very late here. Linsell sees him coming. Baker manages to just pull it up.
From Ewan Baker there, that is beautiful driving to hold the spot as, Northway runs deep. Pinata runs deep. They both run off the track. Pinata loses a spot. Linsell's going to work hard to get this spot back. Remember, we've seen the Mercedes has not been strong down the straights.
Yeah, he has to get by the Aston here in the middle sector. He has to be by before the final corner. And he's going to go for the lunge at turn 7. Is he? Is he? Oh, he almost gets some overlap, but doesn't quite get it done. Turn 12 is going to be the last opportunity Linsell has here, and Dylan Jordan is streaking away here. He's gained another 10th on these guys as they approach the final complex.
Will Linsell be able to throw it up the inside and potentially steal a spot back? I think he's too far back, though. I think he's cooked the tyres. He's going to run so late. It almost runs into the rear of Baker.
Jesus.
I think Baker got out of the break there to make sure that he didn't get run into the rear of. But what a drive in the end from Dylan Jordan to win in race 3, 1 in race 1. What a night.
Yeah, first, third, and first for Dylan Jordan. I think he'll be conclusively the round winner here in the GT4 category. And Ewan Baker, second again. That's a second, a fourth, and a second. So those 2 KSR cars working things out between them very nicely. Linsell third, Pluck fourth, and Lindsay Hobbs finishing 5th. We're going to get another view here of what happened to Robert Northway and Matthew Pinata. It looks like Aaron Gilbert actually finished ahead of Pinata because of that.
Yeah, Pinata just pushing a little bit too hard, clips the grass on the outside, and there's all the hard work gone. That's unfortunate for him because he definitely deserved a better finish than facing the wrong way with 3 corners to go, but sometimes that's just the way it is. Dylan Jordan definitely the round winner. And I'll tell you what, that'll shake up the championship points as well.
Yeah, that it will, with Linsell Getting 2 podiums out of tonight, but 5th place in race 1 will be a setback that he doesn't need. And at the very least, the championship fight will be narrowed as a result of that. So Jordan Baker, Linsell, Pluck and Hobbs are your top 5. Northway finishing 6th in the end, with Gilbert ahead of Pinata. Linton Wills coming home in 9th place. Good finish for him. Daniel Stevens gets into the top 10 once more. And Shane Best finishes in 11th. And it's going to be the end of our coverage for the Grand Tour category anyway. But here on SimSpeed TV, we are not done. We're going to have the Flat Sixes coming up very shortly, Jay. A big thanks, of course, to Wilson's Industrial Sales and OKMS Media and Graphics for their support of V8SCOPS supports. This is going to be a fun one, Jay, as the celebrations begin in the KSR camp.
Yeah, and I've been celebrations are one way to describe it. They're party time, party mode. Can confirm that I've been keeping one eye on the Porsche session, and there's the Porsches out on track in practice at the moment. The Flat Sixes class, and we'll have coverage through of that very, very soon. But championship leader Dylan Shepherd was in top of practice for a long, long while, but is not on the top of the timesheets in qualifying, which is going on now. But I think we should take a little break before we get into coverage of that. When we come back, we race 1. The Porsches here, the Flat Sixes, here on SimSpeed TV. Don't go too far away. Grab yourself a drink, get yourself ready and warmed up. This is going to be exciting action from Indianapolis.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
World of Outlaws Dirt Racing is available now. Download your copy today.
You're watching SimSpeed TV, Event 6 of the V8SCOPS Support Series. We've had a brilliant trio of races in the Grand Tour category, but now we move on to 3 races in the Flat Sixes. And these are the championship standings coming into it. Dylan Shepherd, the championship leader by not much over Cameron Dance. There's only 39 points separating those guys, with Matthew Deere and John Courtney in 3rd and 4th. It's also looking very close between Craig Mason and Ben Pedersen, who has had success at times, but Apache season all up. Nicholas Timores only 8 points ahead of Thomas Hinz. It'll be interesting to see if that gets altered. Unfortunately, though, it doesn't look like either driver is here tonight. Actually, Timores is. So Hinze might fall down a little bit more. And of course, the number 13 of Jonathan Solani, only 3 points ahead of Robbie Bradbury. And Solani's been one of the heartbreak stories of the season so far, making a sim racing comeback after a few years out of the saddle. And he certainly has fantastic pace, does Jonathan. But unfortunately, getting involved in incidents not of his own doing. And that's very unfortunate for Solani, Jay. We'll see if number 13 is able to move up a bit in the standings after this one.
One thing we know is he's got great pace, so there's no doubting about his ability and his pace. So we'll no doubt see him move forward from wherever he starts. We'll find out in just a second. But as you said, format 3 races, 15 laps. So we're lap races here for second round of racing for the night. Here is the starting grid for race 1.
Indeed. Well, looks to me as though Luke Rosella has managed to take pole position for this one in the 55 for Synergy Sim Racing, with Matthew Deere starting alongside him. 3rd place in the championship there. Championship leader Dylan Shepherd will start in 3rd alongside the 954 of Simon Mazzomo. And P2 in the championship, Cameron Dance starts alongside Wade Sheedy for 5th and 6th. In 7th place, it's going to be Nick Timores with Robbie Bradbury for company in the Century Motorsports KFC entry. Harry Dodds starts alongside Peter Pavlovich to round out the top 10. Last driver to set a qualifying time was Anthony Green. He's going to start alongside the 13 of Jonathan Solani. And the last 2 cars on the grid should be Stead Miller and Lindsay Hobbs, with Henry King and Aaron Gilbert in as race control. Gilbert will be driving the safety car if a driver needs to request a tow in a dangerous spot during the race. So
one thing I don't know if you noticed there, Reese, during that qualifying, we'll quickly see how long we've got. We can bring this up. Have a look at how close the gaps are. Look at that top 4.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. That really is ridiculous. Only, excuse me, less than a 10th covering the top 4. I hope that bodes well for the action to come, because I mean, Rosella, Deere, Shepherd, Mazzomo, Dance, all of those guys, they could be in contention for the win here. And it's a solid field here in the Flat Sixes. Only a few seconds left before we get things going here. Another standing start, as is the case in all V8SCOPS events. And there's a lot of rubber being laid down on the racetrack already. Revs rise, and let's see if Luke Rosella can maintain the lead into turn 1, or if Deere, Shepherd, Mazzomo or Dance can best him. We are away, and that's a good start there from Mazzomo, having to take avoiding action because Matthew Deere didn't get a good start. Looks to me like potentially Nick Timores didn't get a good start either, but Rosella is going to lead the way into turn 1. Shepherd already up to 2nd place, 3 wide, and Shepherd gets spun around in the midst of all of that. Dance makes his way through, but has to yield a bit more to Matthew Deere because he went off the track at turn 2. Sheedy now challenging for P2. That was a very dramatic start. Dylan Shepherd at the back.
I'm not sure who that was that came up the inside, but whoever it was, they jumped over the curb on the inside and made contact there. I think it may have been Matthew Deere who made that contact there, but we'll get a replay up very, very soon. But not the start that any of these drivers in the lead group would have wanted, and they'll be extremely disappointed with how that started.
Yeah, that was a car going off in quite a fashion there at turn 7. Yeah, unfortunate there for Miller. And Well, now Rosella with a big lead, because have a look at Matthew Deere. He's facing tons of pressure here from Wade Sheedy, who's had a really good start to this race. Dance up into 4th spot now, and no more contact. Oh, Rosella!
Rosella from the lead.
What? I was not prepared for this, Jay.
No, neither.
This has been a ridiculous start to the Flat 6 races tonight. So our pole sitter now back to 4th. Wade Sheedy leads across the line to end lap 1 of 15.
Had, what, 3 big incidents to start the race, and they've all caught us off guard. And now we've got two drivers that we weren't expecting potentially to be at the pointy end fighting for the lead, with some of the championship contenders in the next group trying to fight for the lead as well. So this is an incredible start. We'll get some replays up soon, but I don't think we can cut away at the moment.
Yeah, the fight's going to continue here between Sheedy, Deere, and Dance, with Rosella recovering. Another car off in the back. It looks like Nick Tamores, unfortunately, and Dylan Shepard will come through there. Actually, no, that was Mazomo who was involved in that lap 1, turn 1 incident. Power down for Wade Sheedy. He's going to try and keep ahead of Matthew Deere as best he can, but Deere is lunging that car through every corner and looking at every opportunity for a move up the inside. That's keeping Cameron Dance and Luke Rosella right in this.
Definitely is. They're right there potentially to steal a position if they can, right at the last moment of the braking zone. Not able to do so at this stage. And
no,
Sheedy's off.
What is with turn 12 and these flat 6s? Seems like drivers having a lot of trouble making that corner. So Matthew Deere now to the lead. Rosella back to 2nd. Dance remains in 4th, but look at Harry Dodds behind. He is in 5th place and challenging now for this top 4 as Dance pulls out to try and get past Sheedy, who'll still be recovering. Dodds with the fastest lap of the race so far.
All right. Oh, Sheedy now just gives
Easy
Dance a
does
little
it.
bit of a push. Oh,
no. Well, there isn't going to be another fastest lap there for Harry Dodds. Dylan Shepard moving back through into 4th. And remember, Shepard was turned around at turn 1. He's going to be turned around again.
That was with Harry Dodds.
This is ridiculous.
This has been a crazy start to the race.
Oh.
I think that's Shep just saying, hey, I wasn't too happy with that.
Well, okay, so Rosella, we thought, had lost the lead, but now he's challenging for it again. This has been a crazy start. We're only on lap 3. When we cross the line, we'll be at 1/5 race distance, and we've had pretty much an entire race's worth of action in that time. Okay, here's what happened at a turn 1. It wasn't Matthew Deere. It was Simon Mazomo. Look at him in the middle. Deere comes up the inside. Mazomo has to give him space and locks up, and then Mazomo gets into the back of Shepard.
Yeah, so that's what started all of that through there. Now, lap 1. Rosella.
Yes, so literally just went too deep and locked the inside right front and had to come back onto the circuit. Fortunately, there was space for him to make his way back on. And then here is the unfortunate incident here as Cameron Dance worked past Wade Sheedy, and Sheedy thought, all right, I'll have another go here, but not happening there. And Harry Dodds, unfortunately, an innocent victim in all of that. What on earth happened to Dodds here? He just lunged up the inside, and unfortunately, Shepard was trying to turn in for turn 4.
Look at the damage to the front of Dodds' car there now from that. So you've got 2 big hits, one nothing that he could have done. Oh, he's even got damage in the rear as well. So that Porsche won't be too good even for spare parts at the moment. So you'll have to limp it home. He's already lost the fastest lap of the race. And for the first time, that last lap was the first time we haven't seen the leader go off at the final complex of corners. Deere was able to hold off from Luke Rosella there. But Cameron Dance is coming quickly. Too quickly as he runs off the track that time. One thing I haven't looked at is the wind direction. Is the wind blowing and pushing the cars in that way?
All right, let's have a look then. Wind direction is coming from the west.
Like tailwind down the front straight here, so doesn't really help explain potentially out braking into that turn, does it? Because it's a crosswind.
Yes, and it's only at about 4 or 5 k's an hour as there's a move for the lead.
Nice pass.
Luke Rosella, back past Matthew Deere now, and into the position he started in. Here comes Nick Tamores, meanwhile, looking to make his way past Lindsay Hobbs.
This Hobbs will know where the track goes now.
Yeah, but unfortunately he won't be.
I don't know where the braking zone is, though.
Yeah, and the lack of ABS in these Porsche Cup cars. Of course, the GT4 category before had traction control and anti-lock brakes. As Harry Dodds comes into the pits, evidently that car, well, number one, it's very damaged, but he's also gotten a black flag for that contact with Dylan Shepherd.
Yeah, I think probably a fairly straightforward decision when you looked at that replay of that incident there. Get that black flag, so serve that penalty, and probably have to come in again and get another, or do another drive through the lane. Now, one thing to note as well, Reese, is there is a 20x incident limit in this series before you get an iRacing automated drive-through penalty. 15-lap race, we've already got one driver on 12 incidents. So someone has to be a little bit careful. I'm sure that you could probably guess who it is just from that the first couple of laps, but I won't say just in case drivers are listening in, because we have had, sadly, incidents where drivers have forced others into making contact to force them to get a penalty. Here comes Mazomo up the inside of Tamores, who's already had dramas. Tell you what, how shuffled up is this field, especially when you look at what the standings were on lap 1 and lap 2. Now they're completely polar opposites of what they were at the start of the race, but they're almost back to where they were in qualifying, at the end of qualifying.
Yeah, particularly Rosella and Deere. They are top 2 as they started, but they had to go through a lot to get back to that point. Dance up 2 spots, so is Wade Sheedy. 3 spots up for Bradbury, 4 spots up for Pavlovich and Hobbs. And everyone else bar Stead Miller has unfortunately lost out in these first few laps of the race. Well, now it's looking like the top 2 is the battle to look at. As we check out Deere almost having to get up into 3rd there on the run into the penultimate corner. Will he be able to stay in touch with Luke Rosella? Interesting to note, I think he lifted a little bit through the final corner. Of course, that's part of the handling characteristics of the Porsche Cup car. It's got the engine in the rear, which means the front end is very light. Once you get on the power, it can be difficult to steer that car unless you induce some rotation in the rear when you put the power down. Through a very fast final corner like the one we've got here, it can be difficult to keep the front end gripped up. There's Mazomo, speaking of lack of front end grip, unfortunately spears off in the 3rd last turn.
Almost need a counter up on screen for how many drivers have done that and will do that by the end of the night. Remember, this is one of 3 races in this class. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see maybe another 10 or 12 incidents like that. The drivers completely outbrake themselves. And don't forget, we saw it in the GT4 as well. So one thing I have noticed since the reconfiguration, geez, words are struggling today, of this circuit is the lack of braking markers into that final complex of corners. There are some, but if you are side by side with someone or not properly positioned, they can blend into the crowd. You can see them on the side of the wall there, but they aren't the easiest to see if you're not really looking aggressively to find them.
Yeah, that's
they blend into the crowd a bit.
Very good point indeed. Of course, this being an oval circuit, the braking markers, especially down the front straight, they have to be up on the catch barrier.
He's lost 2nd spot, and guess what happened?
Oh, what a surprise. Unfortunate there. I think a big part of those incidents also is the entry to that corner too, because you're coming out of a long sweeping right-hander and braking hard for another right-hander. That means that the inside tyres will be unloaded by the time you get on the brakes, and I mean, you saw a bit of a difference in lines there in the GT4 category, especially Sean Linsell. He made sure that the car was completely straight before he hit the brakes. Of course, it's not as much of a problem in GT4s because they have anti-lock brakes, but in these cars, you want to make sure that you have as straight a trajectory as possible by the time you put your foot on the stop pedal.
Not only are you putting your foot on the brake for another right-handed corner, but you've just had 2 right-hand corners before it, so the tyres are probably screaming for Blue Murder as well, because they're going to be hyperheated, the real long sweeping corner and then the tight aggressive one beforehand. So tyres haven't had a chance to relax, and you know, as you said, the car's still loaded as well. So yeah, that front inside tyre locking up, definitely seeing it more prominent in this race. But probably a little bit faster speed in this race as well, so we're noticing a little bit more. Interesting though, one thing I've noticed is that the lap speed of these cars is not as far off the GT4s as I was expecting. They're only 3.5, 4 seconds faster. I'm a little surprised by that. I thought it would have been more.
Yeah, that's interesting to note. I mean, these cars usually run pretty similar pace to the V8s that we're going to be seeing on Sunday. I think a big part of where time can be gained in the GT4s is through the corners, because these Porsche 911 Cup cars, they are set up very basically. They are pure spec racing machine. You can't adjust much on them, and they don't have as sophisticated or adjustable suspension as the GT4s do. So the chassis of these things doesn't quite cope with the corners as well as you would expect. And I think slower cornering speeds are a big part of why.
I think he's lost a bit more ground to Cameron Dance, who isn't able to keep up with Luke Rosella, which surprises me quite a lot. I thought that Dance may have had a bit more pace to close in. That lap by lost a second. Deere lost a further second to Dance. Sheedy and Bradbury, though, here on screen, they're very evenly matched at the moment. Peter Pavlovic, I say, he's probably been the drive of the race so far. He's kept out of trouble, avoided all of that carnage at the start, finds himself up in P6 after starting in 10th.
Yeah, it's been a good job from Pavlovic so far. Shout out to Lindsay Hobbs as well. Started all the way at the back of the field and is up into 9th now. Having said that, he ran a little bit wide there on the
He just forced him off the track with that. Oh, Bradbury around.
Oh dear. Bradbury was running well in 5th spot. He's lost 3 places from that one, and I think that might just be a case of either locking up and spearing off or catching the grass on entry. We'll have another view of it here, and neither. Looks like the rear end just went on him on the way into turn 4.
Somehow he avoided getting an incident point for that off track there.
Huh. Interesting.
I'm surprised by that, but yeah, lost 3 spots, which is unfortunate for him, but I guess if you look at the bright side, it means he starts higher in the next race.
Yeah,
always got to look at the silver lining, don't you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. This is a similar format to GT4s. I mean, it's run to distance, not time in this series, but the race format is the same. Race 2 grid is the finishing order of race 1 inverted. So drivers like Harry Dodds will be looking forward to that, because it means they'll be starting up the front. But Rosella, Dance and co. will be starting at the back. Here's the battle for 8th then. Pavlovic, Timores and Mazomo. And Pavlovic a little bit ginger on the way into turn 1 there. Timores, despite his incidents earlier, is still driving close to the limit here. And Mazomo looking to take advantage. Remember, Mazomo wants to recover something from this one. He started in 4th. He was involved in the turn 1 melee, and then unfortunately had an off himself. So now he's trying to find a way back past. He's not quite able to catch up to Timores, but now that he's behind Pavlovic, looks like Timores is giving up some time. Look at Pavlovic's last lap time, 1 minute 28.6. Compare that to a 1 minute 27.3 for Timores and 0.2 for Mazomo. Here we go then. Might be a move here for Tamores. Yeah, Pavlovic is very early on the brakes here, but Tamores showing everyone why Pavlovic is doing that, because he ran wide, and Mazzomo now looking for a move here. A little bit of space around the outside, and he streams on through to take back 5th place. Good stuff.
Oh, Anthony Green around.
Oh dear. Yeah, one of the KRF competitors here, and that is on the exit of turn 10. It looks like he unfortunately did what Pinata did at the end of the GT4 race. Just got on the grass on the exit and round he went.
That won't be the last time we see that either.
Yeah, certainly not. Especially since the front end loses out quite a bit in these cars, and got to make sure that you have good rotation around this circuit. Well, number 21, Nick Tamores now. He has managed to get ahead of Pavlovic, and look who's coming up behind them all now. Century Motorsports teammate Robbie Bradbury. Bradbury is back in the position he started in. He has had quite a bit of trouble here as Tamores once again wide, and Bradbury locks his brakes too in sympathy.
Definitely didn't do as bad a job though, did Robbie Bradbury, but Nick Tamores definitely lost a lot of ground from that. And now going to have to defend. He's going to have to watch that mirror, because Bradbury will have the draft advantage down the front straight. 3 laps to go now when they've crossed the line. Not much racing left in this race one.
Yeah, 3 laps to go. And, well, now Pavlovic has gained another spot back thanks to Tamores' mistake. Looks like it's a case of the fast and the safe around here, and it's working out well for both methods. But Matthew Deere, Cameron Dance and Luke Rosella, that top 3, obviously in inverse order. Ooh, take care, Nick. That might have been a slowdown if he was a little bit more to the right-hand side. The top 3 have spread out quite a bit, haven't they?
Yeah.
Rosella's just managing his pace at the moment, so is Dance. Deere is trying to make his way back into second, but not having much luck of it. Dance running a little bit slower, though. Post-event review from Race Control for that lap 1, turn 1 incident. It'll be interesting to see what comes out of that one, because I don't really know who could be assigned blame, if anything, for that, as it's another mistake for our race leader, Rosella. I think we should just set up a permanent camera at turn 12 at this point.
Just leave the camera there all night, couldn't we? We might have to set one up for Sunday, because if we're seeing that now with the Porsches, I think we're going to see it a lot in the V8. So an eye on that corner. Get into it, as Nick Tamores has run into more dramas as well.
So what happened to Tamores this time? Coming out of turn 10. Yep. Managed to not spin it though, which is good, I suppose.
Better than what a lot of others have done.
Lost. Yes. I think if you can at least keep some forward momentum on the car, keep it straight, it's definitely could turn out a lot worse than it does. Matthew Deere catching up to Cameron Dance now. It seems that Dance has not been able to escape the inconsistency that has plagued many drivers here as well. And
look at that last lap time. 0.8 of a second quicker.
Quite the difference indeed, isn't it?
The massive difference around this track. I mean, the lap times are 127s, 128s. You're finding almost a second in saying that he's just thrown it all away at that corner. So any inroads that he was gaining have just gone. The white flag in the air for our leader. I think now that battle may be done. I think he's too far back. Although everyone's tried to throw their races away, so it's not over.
Yeah, I don't think there's been a single driver in this field that hasn't had some sort of issue. Championship leader Dylan Shepherd.
Yeah, no, you're right, it was Shepherd.
Yeah.
Click the wrong
Championship
button.
leader off the track, and, well, Shepherd was trying to make his way back into the top 8, but that's not going to happen now. He's back in 10th behind Tamores. Bradbury and Pavlovich fighting their way through. I guess I should revise my earlier statement. I think the drivers that have had the safest races out of everybody have been Pavlovich and Hobbs, who's just behind the Century Motorsports pair, and Bradbury in the 35. Well, he's had quite a bit of work to do, hasn't he? Only gaining one spot in the midst of everything that's gone on in this race, but looks like there's going to be a trade for position on the final lap between these teammates. Pavlovich on the brakes nice and early, and through goes Bradbury. Just needs to hold on for a few more corners. Speaking of a few more corners, there's only one for Luke Rosella, who's about to come across the line to take victory in the first race of the Flat Sixes here at Indianapolis. A good drive, all things considered, but, I mean, who wasn't patchy in this race?
Yeah, everyone's had a shocker, haven't they, really? Out of our 13 starters, everyone has received at least one incident point except for one driver. So that just shows you how much of a shocker they've had tonight in this field. And when I say in this field, I'm meaning in general the entire field. Wade Cheaty, Deere and Dance finished 4th, 3rd and 2nd. Mazomo crosses 5th, and Bradbury is that only driver with 0 incidents, but even he we saw run off the track.
Yeah, very lucky to escape that single incident point when he ended up losing the rear into turn 4 earlier, which we caught on replay. Oh, that is going to end the first 15 laps of Flat 6 action, and boy, was there a lot of it. Rosella from Dance by 9 seconds, then Deere 11 seconds behind to complete the podium. Sheedy and Mazomo complete your top 5, with Bradbury, Pavlovich, Hobbs, Tamores and Shepard rounding out the top 10. A real big shocker for the championship leader, with Stead Miller, Anthony Green and Harry Dodds rounding out our field. And amazing to see that all of our starters made it to the finish, in spite of all the carnage that we saw. Unfortunately, Jonathan Solani didn't take to the start, but still, I think that's a pretty good stat.
Whether Solani's had a tech issue or something else as to why he didn't start, because he's not in the session, so a little bit unfortunate, but happens sometimes, isn't it? Them's the breaks. But ready for race 2. Not far off starting. Harry Dodds will start as the first place car on the grid. Won't start from P1 because a few spots will be taken up by what should be a safety car, but obviously they won't start the race.
Race control wishing everyone good luck, and I suppose giving them a little bit of a pep talk after that very difficult first race. The first 3 grid spots are going to be left clear here, because it doesn't look like Jonathan Solani is going to be taken to the start for this one either. And of course we have our safety car and race control in as entries. All right, looks like everyone's made their way onto the grid. And, well, if we could stick on that camera angle for all race, Jay, that would be nice. Turn 12, definitely a place to watch here tonight. But we got to make it around the rest of the lap first here. Green flag flies, and we're rolling. Harry Dodds not getting off to a good start at all, and barely a start at all for Nick Tamores. That results in contact between Matthew Deere and Luke Rosella at the back of the field. Our pole sitter all the way back to 9th spot. Dylan Shepard leads into turn 1. He's followed by Anthony Green and Lindsay Hobbs, 3 wide with Stead Miller and Simon Mazomo.
Crazy start to the race, and Miller, I think, has got damage. Is he? He's off the track.
Yeah.
I'm thinking there's a bit of damage to his car there, so hopefully
there
is.
is.
Yeah, okay. Miller's limping the car back, but
that was due to Stead Miller running into the back of the slow starting Harry Dodds.
Rosella's dropping a lot of ground as well.
Yeah, I think Rosella, well, doesn't look like there's any damage to the front, but I think he was involved in something at the start there. Yeah, he got into the back of Matthew Deere because remember that, yeah, they all had to check up to avoid Nick Tamores. And ultimately, they couldn't avoid contact, but we're coming up to the end of lap 1 here. Who's going to go off track at turn 12 this time? All right, here we go. Yeah, big lockups. There we go. Yeah, almost every car in the field, and someone's around. It looks like Matthew Deere.
Yep, Matthew Deere and Nick Tamores taking the old layout, of the old MotoGP layout. Of course, went the other way. We sort of got through, but I'm worried about Matthew Deere here. He's stalled the car. Is he going to be able to get the car restarted? Because if he doesn't, we could see a safety car here.
He's called race control for a tow.
Oh, he's got a tech issue.
Oh, yeah. Looks like stuck throttle and wheel disconnected potentially. So we might see a safety car out of all of this. Waiting on confirmation, but the battling continues out on track. Cameron Dance and the 03 of Wade Sheedy side by side through turn 4. And it looks like Sheedy's going to get him there, coming into 5 and 6. Good job there.
I don't think Dance could really do much else. He had to get out of it, give up a bit of time there, and going to defend to hopefully, for his sake, only lose one position. Can confirm that Matthew Deere has been able to get away and has been given permission to tow back to the pits to fix his tech issue.
So no safety car from that. Not that we need one. It's
There's
still
enough action as it is.
Yeah, still a lot of action happening throughout this field. Looks like Luca Rosella there trying to put a move on Harry Dodds, who goes maybe a bit deep. No, he manages to pull it up for the apex of turn 12, but Rosella fires it up the inside, gets it done, and, well, did race control give permission for Matthew Deere to escape?
Maybe he didn't.
Because, yeah, he's just said in the InSim text chat, had to escape wheel issues.
Maybe he couldn't
race control there.
Maybe he couldn't do anything else and just had to. Obviously, some wheels, they're locked together like that, can actually be a safety issue for the driver depending on the wheel. So maybe he's had no choice to escape out just to make sure that he. Oh, Mazomo getting there aggressively, and he and Dance come together.
No. Well, that's what happens when you have 4 or 5 cars going to the same bit of track. Yep, Robbie Bradbury involved as well. Mazomo rolling backwards. We might see a safety car out of this one, depending on what Mazomo's done. See, all of this was caused by a battle going on between Anthony Green and Lindsay Hobbs, and Green a bit off the pace. He was trying to keep Hobbs behind. Mazomo saw all of this happening in front of him and thought, okay, I'll stick it up the inside, but unfortunately, looks like he lost it on the inside.
I saw a gap there and it closed pretty quick, didn't it? It was there, and then all of a sudden it was gone.
Yeah, and well, Bradbury
finished them off, both off, didn't he?
Yeah, and I feel like Bradbury could have afforded to go left, but who knows? We don't know what his perspective was. Either way, still all happening here as Rosella gets by Anthony Green. What a shuffling of the pack this has been. Wade Sheedy up into 2nd, Rosella in 3rd, Green still holding on to 4th place, and Hobbs to 5th. They got Harry Dodds coming up behind them, and Hobbs trying to go for it. Oh no, looks like Cameron Dance has suffered some issues from that contact with Mazomo early. He's been instructed to hold position by race control. Is this going to be a safety car? Safety car called. There we go. And that is going to compress the field together. Dylan Shepherd's over 6-second advantage that he gained is now reduced to nothing.
Oh, wait. Interesting start to the race, isn't it? It's not how we expected the start of this one to play out, but definitely been an action-packed start. Chance to maybe look at what happened on lap 1 there to Stead Miller as well.
Yes, oh, just like the first race, we have a lot to dissect here. All right, keep an eye on Stead Miller.
Great start from him.
Yeah, good start, but then side-by-side contact with, I think that was Harry Dodds there. Yeah, he got a bit too much wheel spin. Moving to protect the inside was Dylan Shepherd there. And then into turn 1, 3 wide. Almost contact with Mazomo, had to go wide. And then, yeah, Miller already having damage there from the contact with Dodds. I think just wisely chose to get out of the way of everybody because he knew that his car was substandard there.
It's very, very clever driving, realising that the car's got a bit of damage. There's no point fighting because it's going to cause dramas. Very, very good job to get out of it and bring himself and back into the pits. He's got himself back out on track. He actually has come back into the pits under this, or just before the safety car came out, but potentially get some more damage fixed. Race is definitely nullified now, and Dylan Shepherd's great start, all for nothing.
Indeed, and he's got Sheedy and Rosella behind, who will certainly challenge him for pace. Shepherd not quite able to qualify up the super pointy end, though he did start third for the first race. And good point to mention also, no fast repairs in this series. Which is why we've had drivers come in to get damage fixed incrementally, as Cameron Dance is given permission from race control to escape back to the pits, and unfortunately we'll have lost our reigning Flat Sixes champion from this second race. Hopefully we see him back out on track for race 3.
Fingers crossed we see him back out there, but I'm sure he will come back out on track. A little at that. So back out on track very, very soon for race 3. I nearly said race 2. This night has flown by, but in the same breath, it feels like it's going slow in the same time, because there's been so much going on. It feels like we haven't done everything from race 1. So we've still got to talk about the first race, but we are definitely in race 2. It's been a strange night. I think both of our brains being fried as well probably hasn't helped.
Yeah. Well, it's less fried at the moment, and now more a charred crisp, thanks to the action so far in the Flat Sixes. So much has happened. We've had an entire night's worth of incidents in just 20 laps of racing in these cars. The 15 of race 1 and the 5 completed now of race 2, as Mazzomo coming into the pits, I would presume, for some damage.
Yeah, I'm thinking he's just going to come in and get a fresh set of tyres and get some damage fixed. Probably a little bit of steering damage as well, potentially. He'll get back out there and continue on. Well, Bradbury's back out on track. He's got a little bit of damage fixed, but it doesn't look that crash hot in comparison to clean car. Considering how clean and fresh his car looked at the end of race 1, probably a little sad that it looks as damaged and beaten up for race 2.
Yeah, the incident-free streak over in this event for Robbie Bradbury. And don't know if we're hearing that the safety car will be pulling into the pits at the end of this lap. We'll have to wait and see. But Cameron Dance has been cleared. We've had cars visit the pits, and the field is nice and compressed for the time being, so I wouldn't be surprised if Aaron Gilbert pulls into the lane at the end of this lap.
Talking about incident points and that as well, can confirm that every single driver in the field has at least 4 incidents, except for one who is still on 0.
Right, and of course, we're going to keep the identity of that individual a mystery.
Well, I am. You can guess, but I'm not going to confirm it is.
Oh well. Yep, safety car moving away from the field. Just been confirmed. So now the field falls under the control of championship leader going into this round, 43, Dylan Shepherd, who's had a good season so far. He'll be hoping to make up for the unfortunate showing in race 1. Certainly got everything it takes to come away with the win in this race 2. But Sheedy and Rosella both showing fantastic pace, and Rosella looking to back up his race 1 win here. All right. Question is, when does Shepherd get on the power? Car 43 officially has control of the restart. They'll be entering the zone very shortly. Remember, they're not allowed to make any moves before the start-finish line, so they have to be right on it when Shepherd gets on the power. You see that Sheedy is keeping him very close company. Shepherd puts down the power halfway through the final corner, and we're back to racing. And a nice long straight for Shepherd to take advantage of that jump, immediately breaking the draft. But we see side-by-side happening between Lindsay Hobbs and Harry Dodds, and Harry might have the move here under brakes. Of course, Hobbs carrying some damage, And Harry will get the inside for turn 1, but not able to clear him before turn 2. Has to stay behind again.
Domo and Bradbury side by side as well, just in the background there. I'm wondering, I'm going to have to go back and have another look, but Harry Dodds was very, very close to being past Lindsay Hobbs before start-finish line. So we'll have to double check whether Lindsay Hobbs has had an illegal start here as Rosella and
Sheedy!
all by himself. Or was there contact? And in the
No,
background,
there was
Dodds.
contact. Oh, no.
Dodds is gone. That car is damaged beyond recognition.
Yeah, we might see another safety car out of this, and Wade Sheedy on race control for that. There was contact with Luke Rosella. So, yeah, Rosella moved to try and get up the inside of Sheedy, and then...
Oh, Shepard's gone off.
Oh, no. This is the worst possible time here. Safety car called again. Shepard loses the lead to Luke Rosella, who might have a penalty hanging over his head from race control. We'll have to look at that incident again, Jay, between Rosella and Sheedy, because looks a bit interesting from my point of view.
Oh, I haven't seen it yet, so this will be good to watch.
Right, so keep an eye on what Rosella does. Sheedy, I think, was holding his line here. He was moving across to keep to the racing line. Rosella sees a gap on the left, but then just jinks to the right a little bit as they get on the brakes.
Yeah.
Did Sheedy move left? I don't think so.
I don't think so either. In saying that, I don't think that Rosella moved right. So I don't know. One that I'm glad I'm not in race control for. That's all I can say. But one I'm really wanting to know about, what happened to Harry Dodds to end up where he did? Because we obviously saw what happened there to Wade Sheedy, but all we saw in the background was Harry Dodds facing the wrong way in the wall.
Rear end contact from Nicholas Timores here.
Timores has missed the braking point.
Yeah.
How much he missed the apex for?
Yeah, I honestly think Timores would have been better off if he hadn't changed his line.
Yep. That's heartbreaking for Dodds. He's gonna be stuck towing for a long time. Yeah, I don't know what to think about that. That's just been an unfortunate race, this one. Hopefully we see a bit cleaner of a race for race 3. Get to it. I'm going to go back to the restart. I'm sure you remember me saying that I was worried about Lindsay Hobbs potentially being ahead at the start-finish line on the restart. Well, was very close, can confirm that. I think he's okay.
All right, so we'll see here. Slow motion. Yeah, he's okay.
Timed it very well.
And meanwhile, as we continue under the safety car period, I've been looking again at the Sheedy Rosella incident, and I am like 95% sure that Rosella just moved to the right a little bit under brakes, and Sheedy barely moved at all. I think if we get a view of the front of the cars from turn 7, it would be a good idea. But we'll check out what happened to Shepard first. And, well, looks like turn 12 claiming more victims there.
Just as he got it straightened up and on the track, and you saw there Anthony Green was about to overtake him, safety car got called, and he's like, well, I can't overtake him anymore. So that's why you saw Green sort of back out of it at the last moment. So Shep, in a way, is unlucky that it came out when it did, but if it had came out another 5 seconds later, he may have lost 1, maybe even 2 more spots.
Yeah, exactly right. Lucky and unlucky at the same time. We'll be going green at the end of this lap, Henry King has just said in the InSim voice chat. So 2 safety car periods in a 15-lap race, and we'll still have 6 laps to go when this happens again. So Rosella versus Sheedy again. I mean, from that perspective, it doesn't look like Rosella moved right. But if we look at the front of the cars, like from this angle, Jay, that you've got right now, the incident from that angle, I think, will be a bit more damning.
On that exact replay right now.
Either way, we won't have much time to look at the replay because the safety car period will be ending very soon. I think we might have a little bit of time to check it out once more before they go green. Yeah, here we go. Wait for the camera switch. Rosella, yeah, there you go. You saw just it was
Very
only
small.
slight, barely perceptible, but I mean, I certainly wouldn't want to be in the race control chair for that.
I mean, they're going to have to be seen to be doing something because you can't have an incident like that happening, but how do you penalise when it's... I don't know what they can do. Another one of those incidents where I'm glad to be on this side of the booth and not on the other side of the wall in the race control booth because I would be banging my head against that wall.
Yeah, me too. Well, we've got a race start on our hands and Rosella is in the lead here. But Dylan Shepherd will be looking to try and get that back. Green still holds on to a podium spot. Lindsay Hobbs in fourth. Tamores, who's had a very patchy night so far, in fifth. And I think everyone behind Peter Pavlovich will be looking to get by sooner rather than later. Look at how much they backed up there at the rear of the field. Rosella immediately weaving to break the draft of Dylan Shepherd, and Anthony Green will have to go defensive versus Lindsay Hobbs all the way over to the right side of the circuit as Simon Mazzomo. He's trying to keep Wade Sheedy behind him, and Sheedy looking to recover after the incident with Rosella. Wide through turn one there, and there goes Anthony Green around. Lindsay Hobbs makes contact with him. They both spear off the circuit. Everyone else makes their way through.
What's going on in this race? Like, it's a completely different race from what we've seen in the previous four of the night. It's been crazy. It's been chaotic. It's been entertaining, but it has not been clean. As you just see in the background, Mazzomo's had an incident as well.
Goodness me. And Mazzomo on the radio making his displeasure clear to someone. Apparently, there was contact involved. Turn 4 is, or turns 5 and 6 is not a good place to be if you're a Porsche Cup driver. And I think in Peter Pavlovich's defense, because that was the car Mazzomo made contact with, Mazzomo actually disappeared off the circuit on my end for a couple of seconds. So I think Mazzomo's criticism is warranted as we see the incident between Green and Hobbs. But keep an eye on Mazzomo here. Let's see if he disappears here as well. Yep, he does. And so, yeah, I don't really know what Pavlovich and Tamores could have done there.
100% right. Definitely unfortunate. And I mean, Mazzomo probably wouldn't have realised that he disappeared either. So it's one of those unfortunate things that he'll look back later on and go, oh, okay, didn't realise that was how it played out. But in his eyes, he's probably feeling like he just got fenced for no reason.
Yeah. And I mean, what horrible luck for Mazzomo in this race. Same can be said for quite a few drivers. Cameron Dance, Matthew Deere as well. It's actually a growing retirements list that's resulted out of this race. Harry Dodds, Cameron Dance, Stead Miller, and Matthew Deere all not making it to the finish of this one. And we still have 4 laps to go when they cross the line next. Rosella versus Shepherd at the front of the field, but we focus on the Century teammates of Bradbury and Pavlovich, as I thought I saw someone run off the circuit in the background. It was Mazzomo, who once again is having some quite big issues here. Coming across the line to start lap 12 then, Luke Rosella leads by just under a second from Dylan Shepherd. Just catching a whisper of slipstream. And Rosella into turn 1, nice and clean. He's keeping it together after the unfortunate coming together with Wade Sheedy earlier. And I don't know what Shepard can do from this point other than hope for a mistake. And I think that wish is likely to come true because we've seen plenty of mistakes from just about every driver in the field tonight.
Yeah, I don't think anyone has avoided an error at some point. Most have had multiple errors throughout the night. So it's been a chaotic night. Oh my goodness, my speaking is going so well. How am I going to go at 4 o'clock in the morning for iRacing Grand Prix Series? It's going to be almost worth the watch to see how much I butcher everyone's name and everything else.
Yeah, exactly. Don't forget to tune in for that tomorrow morning. With now 12 laps nearing completion in this race, which has gone on a good sight longer than it would otherwise, thanks to the 2 safety car interventions. Looks like Rosella actually gaining on Shepard here, and the gap now well over a second at the line. Shepard, unfortunately, I think, suffering a lock-up somewhere. 1.2 seconds coming into the braking zone for turn 1. And the race has calmed down quite a bit. I think, though, we might see some battles eventuate very shortly. I mean, Lindsay Hobbs is trying to chase down Simon Mazzomo for 7th spot. And Mazzomo's still suffering from those technical issues. He keeps disappearing off the circuit for about half a second at a time. Hobbs will be finding it difficult to make his way past, especially carrying some damage. There was a change for position between Bradbury and Pavlovich, but that's the Century Motorsports teammates just managing their race. For now, though, I mean, it burnt hot and it burnt fast, did race 2. Looks like things have really calmed down now.
100% they've calmed, but is it the calm before the storm? What often is in this series, isn't it? We often see a real lull, and then all of a sudden they just unload and off it goes again. So it's going to be very, very interesting 2 laps, whether we see... Oh, I thought that Rosella was about to drive through the grass. Oh no, Shepard has!
Oh no! All right, well, here's the storm. Shepard has lost his rear wing and a good portion of his front end as well. Gets it spun around, but man, that car has a ton of damage. And Shepard will likely not make it to the finish in that state. Middle of the road, and the Century Motorsports teammates have to go either side of him.
Wow.
He'll have to let he'll have to let Mazzomo and Hobbs go as well. What on earth happened to Dylan Shepard? Well, actually, what Luke Rosella almost did. Got a bit of oversteer on and then caught the grass. That started a slide. Thought he'd recovered it, but it continued as he got onto the start-finish straight. That's heavy contact with the wall.
Very heavy contact with the wall, and he's somehow limping the car still around. I think he wants to finish the race. Remembering he's the championship leader, so he just wants to make sure he finishes the race and gets as many points as possible. He's probably going to lose one more to Anthony Green, you would think, who's coming up on him now at quite a rapid rate. But remember I said that things happen in these races right at the end, especially when there's a lull. Oh, almost like I predicted that was going to happen.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
Exactly. If you have a graph of the excitement of these races, it plateaued all the way through race 1 and the first half of race 2, and then all the way down the bottom, and then suddenly pretty much a vertical line up to Shepard's unfortunate spin there. Lindsay Hobbs now gaining again on Cameron Dance, and it looks like they'll be coming up on Pavlovich very shortly. It is the final lap of the race, though. Luke Rosella getting the white flag, so is Nick Tamores. And Wade Sheeding, who complete our top 3 so far. Mazzomo defensive versus Hobbs. And Lindsay aggressive on the brakes here. Mazzomo defends the position. Hobbs almost touching his bumper there, but gives him a good amount of room. Tiny bit of breathing space and a slight slide for Hobbs means that there's just a bit more breathing room for Mazzomo. Hobbs locks up, almost gets into the rear of an already very dissatisfied Mazzomo. He's definitely made his displeasure known at the driving standards so far, but looks like Hobbs has given him a bit more room again to just make his way around this final lap. Bradbury and Pavlovich running line astern for Century Motorsports, and, well, wouldn't have guessed this at the start of the second race. Luke Rosella, once again, coming across the line. It is 2 from 2 so far at Indianapolis for Synergy number 55. Can he make it 3 from 3? I'd say there's a good chance of that happening.
100%. Very, very good chance of that happening. Here comes the Century Motorsport drivers of Bradbury and Pavlovic, who will finish line astern. Mizomo and Hobbs did catch them on the last lap, though, so still pace to be found potentially for those guys. But Tamores and Sheedy cross the line in second and third, but you would think that Tamores may have a penalty incoming at some point.
Yeah, I'd say so. Well, either way, Rosella and Sheedy should be very happy with themselves. Tamores, I think so too, with at least getting second place on the road. There are your results, with Bradbury and Pavlovich both putting Century Motorsports in the top 5. They should be well chuffed with that. Mizomo finishes 6th in the end. That's still a good improvement on his starting position despite the issues he faced. Hobbs up to 7th spot. And then Anthony Green, the last car to finish on the lead lap there. Shepard ultimately pulled into the pits 2 laps from the end. He retires, as does Harry Dodds, classified 10th. Well, not classified, but in the order 10th. With Dance, Miller, and Deere also retiring. Solani once again not taking to the start.
Whew, we get a couple of minutes of breath, Reese. Literally only a couple. We've only got actually a minute left before they get back into the next race.
Oh my god. Oh dear. All right. It's time to get the brain back into gear again.
I don't know if mine's getting back. It's gone. It's gone.
Yeah. I'm just like my brain is hanging on the edge of a cliff here, and it's just digging its claws in at the moment to try and get back up over the ledge. But oh man, I mean we saw some great racing in the GT4 category, didn't we? Though you know, considering how the night's gone so far. And the Porsches have just come in and basically kicked the door down, haven't they? It's certainly been entertaining if you're a spectator. I think if you're one of the drivers, though, you would have been hoping for better out of the racing tonight in the flat sixes.
There'll be a lot of drivers looking for some big redemption in this next race, aren't there? There's the likes of Dance and Shepard who'll be looking for big redemption, but Mizomo will also be looking for redemption. Tamores will be looking for a cleaner race as well from the front. Stead Miller will be looking for a much better one as well after how it started.
All right, then. We will see with the checkered flag flying in the warm-up session how this final 15-lap race goes. Rosella has qualified on pole position in the actual qualifying session and has won both races running so far. He will start on pole once more for the third and final race of the night. Nick Tamores will join him on the front row with Wade Sheedy and Robbie Bradbury taking up third and fourth. It's been a very good night for Sheedy and Bradbury, all things considered. Very consistent between the two of them. Peter Pavlovich as well. I mean, despite him not quite being on the pace, he's managed to finish in the top 5 in the previous race, 7th in race 1. We'll start in 5th alongside Simon Mizomo with Lindsay Hobbs and Anthony Green on the 4th row of the grid. Dylan Shepard, well, despite his pace and his leading of the championship, he's not been able to back that up tonight. Can he make a difference in race 3, starting alongside Harry Dodds? Cameron Dance will want to recover from a retirement in race 2. We'll start with Stead Miller and Matthew Deere behind him. And then we have, of course, race control. And Jonathan Solani out of the session now. We're not going to be seeing him as the revs rise. Race 3 of the flat sixes here in Indianapolis is go. And once again, not a good start from Nick Tamores. He's not been able to get that car off the line in all 3 races tonight. He will fall right to the back, even behind Robbie Bradbury, who himself didn't get a good start. Into turn 1 they come. Firing down the inside is Cameron Dance and actually causes an incident. puts, unfortunately, Anthony Green into Peter Pavlovich. Green all the way to the back of the field. I think Race Control will be taking a look at that one. But Wade Sheedy forming himself into second place with Nick Tamores' bad start. Mazomo getting himself up into third. That is an excellent start there for the 9.5 Sim Sports car. But Dance is off.
No, that's...
is that Dance?
No, that's Green.
Sorry. My apologies. Yeah, Anthony Green. My apologies.
I think the sun
Dark
and the
coloured
pink,
car.
sun and the pinkish purpley coloured just tricked us all a little bit there. I thought for a second I'd just have a second look, but there's Shepard up the inside, gets past Pavlovich and nearly got Deere at the same time. He went through the middle and held the position.
Yeah, meanwhile, Frogley Juice Racing 981 of Harry Dodds has made up a good few places here. Well, at least he would have, but only up one spot as Stead Miller once again is facing issues, having to take to the US Open Wheel pit exit. 0-3 Wade Sheedy now having to fight off Cameron Dance, who's made an excellent start. Remember, Dance started 11th. Well, look at him now. He's up to 4th.
Yeah, we're going to look at that start potential incident as well. Well, there was an incident, just whether there'll be anything further to come. I don't know if there will, because he definitely hit the apex, did Dance, so he may be okay. We'll have a look at that in a second, but here comes Shepard. Nice little crisscross there to get the move done in the end there over Matthew Deere. Very, very nicely done by Dylan Shepard.
Yeah, very nicely done indeed. Let's see how much more of an advance Dylan Shepard can make here, because he's got quite the gap ahead to Lindsay Hobbs in 5th. And Matthew Deere is keeping him very close company. Pavlovich, meanwhile, having to fend off Harry Dodds behind. They've got Nick Tamores with them as well, who's looking to make another recovery here. Standing starts obviously not being a strong suit here at Indianapolis. As we grab a replay of that start, and we'll be able to see now Cameron Dance, unfortunately. Well, he made the dive, but then we'll see him get into the side of Anthony Green. He was very deep into turn 1. Green then goes into Bradbury, unfortunately.
Race Control will definitely be looking at that one, but I don't know whether there'll be anything that will come from that one. It's, yeah, it was a pretty standard turn 1 sort of incident, I think. It just maybe that Green didn't realise that Dance was there on the inside as well. I think Dance did okay. He pulled it up and actually at the apex, so I'm not sure. Another one where I'm happy I'm sitting here and not in the Race Control booth.
Oh no, Dylan Shepard gets into the back of Lindsay Hobbs, sends him into the gravel. Hobbs was having a red hot go at Wade Sheedy just then, and unfortunately Shepard, well, he saw the gap, and there was a gap, but he went a bit too deep, it seems.
Was a gap, but it didn't last all that long, and that will probably feel the wrath of Race Control.
Yeah, we shall see. Okay, end of lap 3. Luke Rosella leading by a good margin from Simon Mazzomo. We keep our eye here on Harry Dodds, who is now looking at getting past Dylan Shepard for 6th spot on the road. And well, Matthew Deere has managed to get back past Shepard, and is in the midst of that incident at turn 4, been able to gain quite a bit and keep himself right on the back of Wade Sheedy. There's been a lot of chopping and changing of the running order in these races. Cameron Dance still up ahead of Sheedy in 3rd place, and might be gaining on Mazzomo if he can get some pace together. But Mazzomo running a 26.7 on the last lap, a 28.1 for Dance. It has been quite a difference in pace, especially with all the incidents going on.
Just thinking, when you said about it being an up and down night, I'm trying to work out who would finish second for the round. Because everyone has had such an up and down night. Take Luke Rosella away. Everyone has been so up and down throughout the night. I don't know who you'd give the second in points to. Who would be second in points, that is.
Yeah, I haven't even thought about that. I've just been focused way too much on the on-track action here, of which there has been a metric ton. Rosella with the fastest lap so far. Mazzomo starting to lose some ground to Cameron Dance now, and Deere and Sheedy still fighting as hard as they can over the positions here. Let's compare lap times at the end of lap 4. Well, Rosella with a 126.5, 128.0 for Mazzomo. That wasn't a good lap for him. 126.8 for Cameron Dance. And Wade Sheedy versus Matthew Deere. Well, it seems like Sheedy has the edge so far, but only by a few tenths.
You got to watch out for Shepherd coming in behind. So there's the last lap times on the timing tower there. Sheedy 26.7 over Deere's 27 flat, but Shepherd with 26.5 is closing. Harry Dodd's doing the same time as Deere. So the gap between Sheedy, Deere, and Shepherd, I think, will be very, very tight by the end of probably the next lap.
Let's keep it going then. Very late on the brakes is Matthew Deere and almost draws up to the rear of Wade Sheedy. You can tell that he's really firing it into these corners, but I can see quite a bit of understeer happening there for Matthew Deere. And in contrast, you see that Sheedy is just taking it easy. He's looking after the fronts and focusing on the exits. I think that's been where a big part of his pace has come from tonight.
Already 5 laps done in this race. This race is feeling the complete polar opposite of the last one, isn't it? The first 5 laps have flown by, and the first race they flew by, but race 2 seemed like it just kept on stalling with the safety car interventions. But here, this race going by at a very, very rapid pace. That lap by Sheedy, 26.8, 26.7 for Matthew Deere, and 26.9 for Dylan Shepherd. So gap has stabilised a little.
Yeah, just a bit. And I think we can solidly now keep our eye on this fight. Shepherd, he's running roughly equal pace as Sheedy and Deere at the moment. It'll probably take a few laps at least for him to try to get up to the back. He's not even really in draft range at the moment. But Cameron Dance has not been able to get away from them. 1 minute 27.1. That was only a tenth faster than Mazzomo, so it seems Dance is still struggling for a bit of consistency here.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised by that from Cam Dance. I thought he would have had a little bit more pace. Of course, reigning champion in this series. Definitely drives these cars a fair bit. Doesn't drive them as much as he once did. He's been a bit more focused on open wheels than in tin tops, as a general rule, for the last little bit. But doesn't mean that his skill has gone away, because if you're good at these cars, you don't just instantly lose your talent, which is evident by the fact he's still in P3. But yeah, he just hasn't quite got that little edge that he seemed to have last season.
I think a lot of that has been due to changes to the car as well. Remember the 911 GT3 Cup got a big update a few builds ago that really changed the handling characteristics, and some drivers have gelled really well with it and others haven't. So I think Dance might be on the latter side of that one. It's definitely become a little bit more difficult to drive for quite a few of them. As here comes Matthew Deere, gets up the inside of Wade Sheedy and makes contact with him, bumps him wide through turn 7. And I don't know if a redress order will be issued by race control for that one, because that did look like a bit of a bump and run to me.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best way to describe that incident there. Bump and run for sure. Very, very ambitious move. And I mean, he got through, but didn't get through cleanly. And now Sheedy thought he was going to outbrake himself there and maybe give a little bump on the way through. He's thrown it up the inside here at the second last quarter, and they make contact again.
Wade Sheedy.
That's a good way to shorten his name.
Oh, God. Giving a little bit of a return serve there to Matthew Deere. Both cars with a slight bit of damage now. And Shepherd has been brought right into it now. Sheedy immediately goes up the inside, not only to pass Deere, but to protect from Shepherd, but he runs deep and has to give up both of those spots. Shepherd now up to 5th. And, well, Sheedy gets back going. And
thought Shep was going to throw it up the inside then.
yeah. That's why I held my breath. It was a bit of a narrow line there for Shep, but looks like Deere has managed to hold on for the time being. We are, well, solidly halfway through this race now. And there's still a little bit to talk about. I mean, can Luke Rosella get to the finish and avoid mistakes? Can Mazomo hold Dance back for second here? This is going to be a very interesting battle, because Mazomo, now that he's managed to get some clear air, has managed to keep some quite consistent pace. Dance has tried to catch up to him, but occasionally has just made errors that have made him fall back a bit more. And how is this battle going to work out here with Deere, Shepherd, Sheedy, and now Harry Dodds right at the back of this one for 4th?
Harry Dodds has closed up really well in the last couple of laps, hasn't he? He's just sort of plodding along. Hasn't done too much to make magic happen. That's Peter Pavlovic facing the wrong way there.
Oh dear. Looks like the first real spin that we've seen from Pavlovic all night. It's a real shame.
This is Matthew Deere up the inside. And
Looked like a bit of a late decision to move there.
missed the apex. So that doesn't
Well,
usually bode well in saying that he... Oh, yeah.
I mean, look, he didn't miss the apex per se, but he was going to miss the exit, I think. Here we go then. Shepherd up the inside of Deere, and that looked like a much cleaner move. Lots of space given. And Shepherd definitely was able to make the entire corner there. So Shep now up into 4th. Will he be able to catch up to Dance and Mazomo? Here's the other view here. So yeah, Deere, just a little bit of a lock up.
Yeah.
And yeah, if Sheedy wasn't there, then I think he definitely was going to go off at the exit of the corner. But it's not over. Deere, well, he tried to stay with Shepherd there, but Sheedy and Dodds now right on the back of him, and Sheedy will have the slipstream, but looks like Dodds might get it before Sheedy can. Very close here is the Frog Leap car. And Sheedy again with a late decision there. Bit of a jerk. Oh, he's gone way too deep, and that's taken Shepherd off. I think Race Control will definitely take a look at that one.
Sheedy's probably still upset from earlier, but yeah, that was a very, very late dive, late lunge, and
way too late. He wasn't going to be able to make the corner from there.
Shepherd only just has cleared his slowdown penalty from cutting the corner, so yeah, Race Control will be looking back over that one now, and no doubt they'll have something to say about it as well.
I also saw that Shepherd saw Sheedy coming and straightened up the steering to try and let him go past, but there was just no protecting that. Yeah.
I don't think it was a late lunge, actually. I think he's realised he's outbroke himself and just decided to move across a bit more.
Yeah.
Right.
Shepherd, yeah. I mean, he did straighten up the steering, but it wasn't quite enough, was it?
It definitely... I don't think it would have mattered if he went straight ahead. He was still going to make contact at some point, so probably did the best he could to avoid that incident.
So, in the end, I guess Deere now in 4th with Dodds in tow, and the battle's still going on for second here between Simon Mazzomo and Cameron Dance, and they have been trading lap times, haven't they? It seems like Mazzomo runs a 27.6, then Dance runs a 27.5, and then the roles are reversed. But on average, it looks like Dance is continuing to gain, and the slipstream is helping him there. Lap 1, turn 1, no further action once again.
It's probably the right call. Just realised that Race Control had sent me that message a couple of minutes ago and forgot to put it up on screen. So on me, it hasn't taken them that long to decide. It's just that I forgot to put the message up on screen. So my apologies.
That is totally fine. Well, now we have two battles on track, really. Battle for second and the battle for fourth. Harry Dodds, I think if he would have been able to get better race starts, then he would definitely be fighting for a podium here, because I mean, he certainly could have gotten that done in race 2 with the reverse grid, but again, just not able to get off the line, and that seems to be a very difficult thing to do in these Porsches.
It's definitely an inconsistent thing, you know. Some do it and do it easily, and others seem to continually have a problem. Whether it's a different mindset in how you start the car from, say, racing in the V8 a lot, or open wheelers that, or even cars that don't have standing starts. You don't practice standing starts very often. So probably a feature that a lot of drivers don't do enough is practicing your race starts. The other thing we all know about, and didn't have to practice tonight, is practicing your pit entries. So we can't go off at anyone for not practicing their pit entries tonight for a change race.
Yeah, certainly. No pit stops required in these races. Well, these two fights still looking very good with 4 laps to go. Mazzomo will be looking over his shoulder constantly. Unfortunately, it looks like Harry Dodds has made a little mistake there and has lost a tiny bit of ground to Deere, but it looks like he's gaining it back a little bit there. Dance late on the brakes coming into turn 12. Doesn't clean up Mazzomo though, still gives him, you know, maybe a third of a car length of space on the way into the corner. But now the slipstream comes into it, and we could be seeing 2 moves here. Well, Mazzomo actually getting a really good exit out of the final corner, isn't he? But I think Deere versus Dodds behind might just go off. No move for Dance. Still a car length forward to Mazzomo, but Harry Dodds manages to get past Matthew Deere into the first corner. And that's well done there from the 981. Looks like Deere just yielded that one. Dodds got an excellent exit and the slipstream. He was ahead by the time they got to the braking zone.
Previous lap, Luke Rosella lost about a second to these guys. I was just trying to go back and see if I could find it. I cannot see a spot where he seems to have lost that time, so I'm not 100% sure as to why he lost so much ground.
Deere is coming back at Dodds. Ooh, they make contact. Deere was briefly ahead there, but Dodds gets back up the inside through the right-hander.
We're driving there, a little bit of contact. Just the right amount of contact.
Yes.
Just
if
right
any
amount.
Yeah, if any amount of contact could be called the right amount.
Contact that's, you know, just enough to let the other driver know you're there, but not enough to put them off the track.
Yeah, exactly right. Well, 2 laps to go now. And I think the race will be coming to an end, mercifully, for some of the drivers further down. Of course, unfortunate for Wade Sheedy and Nick Tamores, who, Tamores has just straight up not had a good night aside from race 2 where he finished second. And Wade Sheedy, he was on for some really good consistent results with a 4th and a 3rd, but now mired back in 8th and having to try and keep Tamores behind him, who's looking very aggressive on the brakes. Have to give my sympathies also to Lindsay Hobbs and Peter Pavlovich, who were finishing pretty solidly in the midfield up until this race.
100%. I'm just too sorry. I was slightly distracted. The end of that last lap Dance lost a heap of ground, and now Mizomo's lost a heap of time. So that battle, yeah, that battle was done because Mizomo at the start of this lap was about 1.5 seconds, nearly 2 seconds ahead. Now, quickly, while we get a chance,
we might not. Oh, Dance almost got up the inside of Mizomo.
All right, I'll be very quick here. Race 3 penalties. We've got no further action from lap 1, turn 1. Lap 3, we've got a 10-second penalty for car 43, Dylan Shepherd, for the contact with Lindsay Hobbs. 5-second post-race penalty for the car of Matthew Deere for his contact with Wade Sheedy, which sent Sheedy off the track, and also a 15-second post-race time penalty for Wade Sheedy for the contact with Dylan Shepherd.
Harsh, but I think fair with how deep Sheedy was going into turn 1, as there's a move here happening a little bit further back. Speaking of, Sheedy versus Tamores. And these guys are teammates, so they want to try and stay out of each other's hair. Sheedy protects the inside from Tamores, but Nick gets up the inside of turn 2. Sheedy, though, with a straighter exit, gets it done. And you might have heard a little bit of an ooh from me earlier, Jay. Cameron Dance versus Simon Mizomo. I think Dance got a slowdown coming out of the penultimate corner. He got on the brakes and actually locked up all 4 tyres for just a fraction of a second. And I think he was just clearing a slowdown.
Through this section here, I've seen a couple of drivers get slowdowns tonight. So maybe it could have been from that section there, as Tamores and Sheedy are back side by side again.
Oh, goodness. And, Mizomo, defensive for second. Dance tries to get up the inside. These two drivers are very familiar with each other. They give each other a lot of room. It's 3 from 3 for Luke Rosella, takes victory. But Dance just getting second from Mizomo at the death. And, take it easy, Simon. Keep it together. Recovers. And will finish third for his troubles. But Dance to second place. Finally a podium after a lot of potential for that through the race. Dodds will finish in 4th. Deere in 5th. Shepherd, Bradbury, and looks like it is going to be Nick Tamores, who ultimately gets 8th spot. Wade Sheedy finishing behind him in 9th, and, well, the teammates smack each other after the line for good measure.
It's not the only time they smacked each other.
Oh, dear. Yeah, that's a shame there. Tamores locking the brakes on the inside of Sheedy and sending him off. Fortunately, Sheedy didn't lose another position from that one, because Hobbs looked like he was getting mighty close out of that one. Either way, that is the end of the action for Flat Sixes, and Rosella, a dominant run, and that's going to be a round victory for him. Dance and Mizomo complete the podium. Strong drives from both of them, and I think a good way to end the night for those guys. Dodds finishes in 4th after some very unfortunate runnings in the first couple of races. Deere finishes in 5th, Shepherd 6th, and then Bradbury, Tamores, Hobbs, and Pavlovich round out our 11 finishes on the lead lap. Green a lap down, and unfortunately Stead Miller retiring from that one. All right, well, that's going to bring to an end proceedings for tonight, Jay. Of course, we go to Virginia International Raceway for the next round of the championship on the 2nd of June. We'll be looking forward to that one. What categories have we got lined up for that?
Good question. I didn't even check that. So don't ask me. No, I can quickly confirm that, as I have it written down here somewhere. It's on a piece of paper right in front of me. We have the Flat 4s and also the Flat 6s. The Flat Night.
Okay, completely flat night at a track that is anything but flat. We're looking forward to that one. Make sure that you join us on Friday the 2nd of June from 7:30 Australian Eastern Standard Time for that one. We want to thank everybody for showing up and giving us some really awesome action here tonight, and to everyone who tuned in on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. Thanks very much for watching, everybody, and a big thanks also to Wilson's Industrial Sales and OKMS Media and Graphics for supporting the V8SCOPS support series for 2023. I'm Reese Gardner, Jay Kennedy alongside me and handling production behind the scenes. From everybody here at SimSpeed TV, we say thanks for watching, and we'll see you for IGPS tomorrow morning and V8SCOPS itself and the Majors series on Sunday.
Dirt Racing is available now. Download your copy today.